morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Alero Edu and this is Sunrise.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Good morning and welcome to another beautiful Saturday morning. I hope that you have had your Coco with you right there. She's posing right now. I can see the corner of my eye. And she's smiling too and chuckling. Actually, you may not be able to see that one. Oh, Coco, if you are from that part of the country, now you may speak.
Oh, I now have permission to speak. Thank you for granting me permission. Well, I'm a mere mortal after all, so I need permission from...
And what am I?
Oh, you granted me permission to speak, remember? So you are on a higher plane.
Oh, helicopter.
Well, we can't start today's program without saying Happy Children's Day to the children who celebrated yesterday. And in fact, a very strange thing happened. My niece, who herself is a mother, called me at about 4 p.m. Mom, I've been waiting for your call all day. And I said, call all day? Why? What's today's date? 27th of May. She said, today is Children's Day. Oh, God. And I just cracked up. I just could not help. I said, but you are not a child. We said, well, I'm somebody's child. I'm somebody's child. I said, oh, okay. So if my father were still alive, I would actually call him and say, Dad, wish me Happy Children's Day.
How would even sound in your ears for your dad to call you as a mother, say, hello, darling, Happy Children's Day?
I would be highly insulted. Dad, did you mean to call my son? You know?
But there are some, looking at you right now wondering, hey, I didn't get a call from my mom. Someone is picking a call right now and saying, it's true. Mom didn't call me yesterday.
And yesterday was, I'm her child.
I am her child. And she already has like 3 kids. See?
Well, jokes aside, we really need to pay more attention to our children. And I was very pleased with what the president said about children in Nigeria, because it seems that they actually have a raw deal these days in this country. Out of school children, they're on the streets trading. So much is happening to them. So they don't even get a chance to be children.
Alera, yesterday when we began the show, I just backdated in my mind to the beginning of this Fourth Republic. The child born on the very day, May 27, 1999. Is how old today?
Oh dear.
23 years old. Did we plan for that child today? When that child was born, what was our plan for that child?
For that child. There wasn't any, was there?
Now, is it that we didn't
tell people not to have too many children? They think you are cursing them or something. Do not bring children into this world if you're not going to look after them.
There are some things that you don't even need teaching or telling anyone. It's just going to happen.
Well, I see people now who still have 3, 4 children, and I wonder, so what are their plans for these children? How are they going to educate them to start with?
Let's even begin.
How are they going to feed them?
Let's begin with the question you asked about, what the president said about us dealing an unfair hand on the kids. Did we plan for them?
No, we didn't.
Was there a thinking put into their future? Yes. One of the things that I remember, talking about yesterday, which is a fact, was that, this declaration of the rights of the child and all was...
Does the child have a right in Nigeria?
I'm coming there. It started in 1959 with the United Nations. That became what you would remember this one. International Year of the Child, 1979.
Yes.
So that year was declared in order for us to give attention to the child. Not just to the child of the period, but to the child subsequently, so that at least whatever we plan or whatever plan we come up with for that kid We will sustain it over the years, over the decades.
For
That's
all
the expectation.
forthcoming children.
Forthcoming children.
Yeah.
That, then of course that produced the Convention on the Rights of the Child or something like that, United Nations as well. We domesticated that. That one happened, I think, in 1980 something. We domesticated that in 2003 with the Child Rights Act. Which is very, very copiously, which made copious plans and preparations for the child, protecting the child of the day. Now, did we put thinking into it? Most certainly we did. What's the plan to execute those thoughts? Even the Constitution says we should educate the children.
The French would say, c'est ça la question.
Salah.
That is the question. How are we going to implement those things and give our children a better life?
How have we?
Okay, we haven't. So let's let's leave that one. We have not done well. So let's start doing well now.
What
by
are we
the
supposed
child.
to do without a policy, without a plan?
But there
So
is
we
the
have
Child
plans.
Rights Act.
Yes.
So let's just implement the plan that we have laid down.
There are 36 states in Nigeria. Have all the states in Nigeria domesticated the Child Rights Act in their states? Now, each governor, member of the National Assembly or State House of Assembly, president, whoever, was at some point a child. I decided yesterday, okay, let me do something. My childhood on Twitter. So I said, look, what was your childhood like? Hashtag my childhood. So I began to do that. And so a number of people are like, okay, this is the kind of childhood that I had. This is the kind of, I told mine. A number of people came and said, as a child, his own was, there's going to be a problem if he got home, threw his uniform, shoes, bags everywhere, and got into the kitchen and there was no food. There's going to be Third World War. Right there and then, the whole community is in trouble. That's the way you put it. And a number of us will recall those things. So what's the plan we have for today's kids? Most children today hole up in their homes. In your own day and mine, we played outside.
We played outside.
On the streets and everything.
Yes.
How many houses?
We walked around by ourselves without fear.
And how many houses in those days had fences around them? Gates?
None.
Very, very few, if any, at the time. So
no burglar proofing. So
now, and there are so many things. The iPad of those days was slate. And it had a
then the girls would go outside and play 10-10.
Yeah, and all of those things. The boys
we played. In the garden?
We played Omoleri ball. There's no Omoleri anymore. Oh God.
Is that the one you call Felele?
No, that's Felele is the parent of Omoleri. Omoleri is a plastic. Omoleri is a plastic ball. It's about this big. Felele came. Felele, you had to pump it.
Okay.
And then
this one was just so we would have been paper light.
No, it's paper light, but it's made of plastic. Is it plastic or rubber? Anything in that regard. Then there was Felele. Felele is fair, as in. Fair means to blow.
Okay, you have to blow it.
No. Fair means to blow. When you kick it, the wind can easily blow it. So if you played it to the right and the wind was coming, it would blow
end up in the left.
So when a keeper stood on this side and the wind blew the ball the other side, the ball was going to. That's why it's called Felele. Some people listening and watching now would say, that is true. That's the way we grew up. But can the kids of today have the same excitement? Parents could leave their children at home without house help and all those things. I
got news for you. They would ask you, what did you do as children? You had no internet, you had no iPads. So what did you do?
They don't know what they missed.
We played outside and we got told tales by moonlight. So, oh, how boring. They would say.
If only they knew. If only
they are on their things, their phones, their iPads, their tablets all day, all night.
Hold up.
Their parents won't even let them go out because outside is not safe.
And guess what? Even the internet that they're on, if you don't put a leash on it,
danger.
It's worse than going outside. You know, so I don't know. Are we planning for the kids, not just for the ones that are around today, but for the ones that are coming? Education, schools, facilities, and all those things. I mean, if we didn't even plan for primary school and secondary school children, why are we surprised that ASU is on strike?
Question mark.
Okay, so that's just that. And then there is this, some say INEC has finally caved in.
Well, I don't know about caving in.
Well, that's what...
It's only 6 days difference.
Well, nothing else. It's only one date that's been adjusted.
So what is...
the question a number of people...
Caved in.
Some will be asking, because a number of people that we had to engage on this issue will say, okay, so if INEC caved in one regard, what's the assurance that they're not going to cave in along the way?
Well, INEC say that they have everything planned out. And those dates are sacrosanct because there are laws that govern those events. This must not happen X number of days before this. This must not happen X number of days after the, except X number of days after this. So there is a sequence that they have to follow. So it's not going to be easy for them to start caving in here and there, as you suggest.
I am hoping that that is... I mean, sincerely, because, I mean, we've had conversations upon conversations, and the implications of moving any of the dates is dire. The question a number of people keep asking is, hey, political parties, for God's sakes, the timeline and the schedule of activities for the elections, according to INEC, was signed on February 26 this year, published February 28 after the president signed the Electoral Act 2022 into law. You know, so between February 28 and now, what were the parties doing? March, not a word.
Planning. They were planning.
I see. And in April?
Planning.
They were planning. And then May, they suddenly saw that the planning
had to come to fruition.
I wish there was some, if there are those who would argue that if there was some thinking put into the whole planning by the parties, they would also come up with their own timelines and, you know, schedule of activities. Okay, in March we're going to do this, in April we're going to do this, so that we don't have this pressure on us. Now, the IPAC...
On us?
On us, yes, it's us. Us Nigerians. Oh, though they are Nigerians as well, there'll be the argument. But, no, all 18 parties, according to IPAC, came together and says, we want an extension. And then one of the parties, the PDP, says, why did you have to shift the goalpost in the middle of the game? Okay, does that mean it's only 17 parties and not 18? I don't know. It's just a question. And that's what I'm paid to do, right? Well,
politics.
So
I wish somebody would just think more about all the issues we're facing in this country instead of just politicking.
Anyway, well, if it's gratifying, INEC says it's for the rest of the primaries, it doesn't cancel out the ones that have already been done, which INEC monitored. So it's just for the others.
Okay.
You know, so that's that. So the primaries have started officially.
Oh yes. There's one holding today, isn't there?
Well, there is one holding today. Well, the one that I think it's supposed to be APC presidential primaries tomorrow. Which has been postponed. Now being postponed.
Yeah.
So I guess we wait. But you know, the big topic was the delegates. Oh dear.
Oh, you must go there again today. We discussed that last week.
Oh, we did? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, we did. The delegates who are smiling all the way to the bank.
No, they won't even go to the bank.
Oh, someone had a good description for it on Sunrise. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
What was that?
I can't remember what it was again.
No, I remember on the news at 10, I think it was Bismarck Rana that came up with a caption, delegates procurement process.
That's it. That's it. Delegates, procurement. And Donye Okukwe wrote an article wherein he said, don't deceive yourself. That is the way it happens. If you don't play ball, then the ball is going to kick you when you go back to your local government. That is the way it has been, and it seems that is the way it's going to remain.
There really isn't a problem about it, because someone else came out and said, look, that's the same way it happens in the US and other democracies. But can we find a structure around it so it's not so, what's the word now? bizarre. Someone called, okay, what's called it? I said it's bizarre bazaar. Someone called it a bazaar.
It certainly is a bazaar. Did you hear about the candidate who got very few votes and then went to all the delegates he had given money to? I said, guys, I want my money back. What could I try? Bring my money, bring my money.
I heard one that said, okay, he'd given money to all the delegates and he got maybe just about 2 or 3 votes. Then he hired some criminals or whatever and began to go after the guys. Said, give me back my money or else.
Straight away.
He's been collecting his money back.
Straight away. But if you got 2 votes and I am one of those 2, how am I going to pay you back? Or why should I pay you back?
I've done the job.
Exactly. So, but how am I going to prove that I was one of the 2?
How are you going to prove that I'm not?
Well, okay. Catch 22. Okay.
But you know, for me,
no delegate is going to be willing to pay anybody any money back.
Come on. And then there was some math done by someone yesterday that if one aspirant is paying each delegate $80,000.
Dollars? Excuse me?
Well, I think we can go to the menu.
Yeah, I think I want to be a delegate.
Is that now another ambition?
Job.
No, because, you know, you ask children, what do you want to be? I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer.
I want to be a delegate. Yes, we're going to start today's program by looking at the politics of zoning.
Well, most certainly something to talk about. And then there is that law against ransom payments that's been proposed.
Yeah, it's okay for you to say I can't pay ransom because your father or your brother hasn't been kidnapped. So it's okay for you to say I should not pay.
I'm innocent.
Then after that, we'll be looking at a better future for the Nigerian child.
Yes.
That is very important.
Yes. And I say yes to that. And of course, we'll be rounding off with the artist of the week. He or a she?
He is a he.
Not it is a he.
He is a he. And a very interesting he for that matter. So you do well to just stay with us to the end of today's program so you can have a good time with us all through and especially with the artist of the week.
But just before, okay, I understand that we're supposed to... Oh, no, we're not going to do that. Some music first. Yes, that's it. But before we go into that, let's talk a little more politics. Linda Akigwe is standing by right now in Abuja, and there is an event that I'm going to let her talk to you about. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning. We are at the velodrome of the Moshood Abiola Stadium, National Stadium, in the capital city, Abuja, where the National Convention of the People's Democratic Party is expected to hold to by 10 a.m. Now, this convention is for delegates to vote on who will become the presidential flag bearer for the PDP in the 2023 general elections. Now, you can see the venue is all set. If you look closely, you see signs showing where the delegates from the various states in the country will be seating. You can see state signs like Bauchi, Benue, Borno, Delta, Jigawa, the 36 states of the Federation, and the FCT. Each stand has where each delegate is expected to seat. Now, you can also see that the ballot boxes are also set where delegates will be casting their votes. Close to the ballot boxes or behind the ballot boxes are the stands where the delegates will be writing down the names of their preferred candidates. After writing down the names of the preferred candidates, they will now cast votes in these ballot boxes. The votes will be counted, and maybe by tomorrow morning or later this night, we will now know who would emerge as the presidential flag bearer of the People's Democratic Party. Now, if you look in front, there is a stage. At that stage, this is where, or a podium rather, it is at this podium where the speeches will be made by top party officials. That stage all set for where the party officials will be giving speeches, one after the other. We expect that this event might start maybe later in the afternoon, but it's scheduled to start by 10 a.m. Now, as at yesterday, there were 14 aspirants contesting for the presidential ticket. However, this morning, one of the aspirants, Mr. Hayatuddin, stepped down from the contest, explaining that he's pulling out of the convention after wide consultations with his constituents. And he says that the reason why he's pulling out is because the contest has been obscenely monetized. These are his words from the press statement which he released late last night. So as of this morning, there are 13 presidential aspirants contesting for the presidential ticket at this convention. There are a total of 811 delegates expected to vote here today. 774 delegates from across the country are voting, one delegate per local government. But there are an extra one delegate each for each state for representing people who are living with disabilities, bringing the total number of delegates who will be voting today at 811. Now, as we all know, in an interesting twist, the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, has postponed its convention. The convention was scheduled to hold tomorrow, Sunday, but it has been postponed from Monday 6th to 8th June. Now, this is coming after INEC, the electoral body INEC, extended the schedule of the election, giving political parties an extra 6 days between 4th and 9th June 2022 to conclude all its outstanding primaries and prepare to upload the list of their candidates on INEC portal. So we'll give you more details as events unfold. Back to you in Lagos.
Well, before I let you go, Linda, the last bit of information that you just gave us now about INEC deferring this immediate date by 6 days and not allowing it to affect the June 10 deadline for final submission or uploading of candidates from the parties. Do you think it has any bearing whatsoever on today's event that we're covering live, especially in the light of the fact that the PDP has complained about it, the information about shifting the goalposts, so to speak, in the middle of the game?
Well, I don't want to give into speculations at this time. All we know is that we are set here. The convention is supposed to start by 10 a.m. But if there is any postponement or anything, we'll know as the day goes by. But we know that the PDP is not altogether happy about the extension by INEC.
Well, I guess, as you said, we'll most certainly come back to you from time to time because 13 candidates now. Any chance, by the way, please don't speculate just as you said, but any chance that any other candidate is likely going to pull out or step down?
Anything can happen. It's politics. It's Nigerian politics. Anything can happen. So we're open. We're here. We're monitoring, and we'll give you details of events as they unfold.
Certainly come to you, Linda, and trust you to do your best to ensure that we get it as it comes. Thank you so much, Linda, for the reporting you have done so far.
But you had asked her not to speculate.
Yes, I said she shouldn't, and she didn't. Come on. You know, it's interesting the way things are playing out.
In politics, anything can happen. 5 minutes are even a long time in politics.
I thought you were going to say 24 hours.
No, that's too long. That's too long.
Okay, well, that's that. I guess, you know, that's part of the things that we may be speaking to today. You want to talk to us about the politics of zoning? Because, okay, I'm not saying anything. Let's welcome Fred Nzako, who is Secretary General Movement for Nigeria's Restructuring, and he is a legal practitioner as well. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Many thanks. Good to be with you. Good morning.
Yeah, you know, the controversy over political zoning has been a bone of contention quite significantly in the political landscape for some time. And there are questions as to whether or not it has any merit or demerit. There are those who point at the Constitution as referencing it directly or indirectly, you know. So the question then would be, first of all, of what significance is the politics of zoning in our electoral landscape?
One thing, the significance revolves around one thing: inclusion. Inclusion. And when you say inclusion, you recall that it has historical origin. In 1914, following the amalgamation of the North and the South to form Nigeria, and Nigeria had always been working on that issue of North and South, and it has always been there. Even our laws recognize there is that fusion, and there's need for that fusion to really happen, and then as we march on towards a nation state. And in order to ensure that there's this inclusion, we included the federal character principle even in our constitution, so that nobody is left behind. Now, it has always been this idea of North and South. In order to kill the idea of tribes, because at a point in Nigeria's political development, we had challenges of tribal sentiments and tribal inclinations. But following the 1994 Constitutional Conference, the idea of, 1998 conference, sorry, the idea of tribe was downplayed by the 6th geopolitical zonal arrangement. Even though it has not been brought into our constitution formally, but Nigeria has found out that we work on the arrangement of the 6 geopolitical zones. Yet, following the recognition of North and South. And that is why you have 3 zones in the North and 3 zones in the South. And that has essentially achieved a lot in terms of downplaying the issue of tribe. And now we are now talking about the issue of zoning. So if you look at
really, my apologies, do you think it really downplayed the issue of tribe or ethnic sentiment?
To a very large extent, because if you recall when we were only talking about during the era of MPN, MPP, and UPN, it was essentially a tripod based on 3 tribal and ethnic regions. The MPN was treating more towards the north. The MPP was treating more towards the east, and the UPN was treating more towards the west. And of course, you have over 300 tribes in Nigeria, speaking over 350 languages. So how do you now make sure that there is inclusion? So that wisdom of geopolitical zonal arrangement was a very good masterstroke that has not been defeated up to today. And that is why when we talk about restructuring, we talk about even political and geographical restructuring in terms of, instead of having 36 states, for example, why not we have 6 states? But that's a story for another day, because we're talking about zoning now. And that zoning has now always been, the pendulum has always been swinging between north and south. But zoning as a policy, I must say quickly, is not a national policy. It's a policy of political parties.
Well, Mr. Ziako,
yes.
If we had zoning as a national policy, taking the 6 geopolitical zones,
yes,
would that be such a bad thing? So everybody would understand that the office would go from zone to zone, from zone 1 to zone 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and to 6. So there's no squabbling and there's no quarrel. You just wait for your turn.
Absolutely.
Because it will be your turn.
Absolutely.
Because there are 6 zones.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be a good thing?
That would be a wonderful thing. And that is why we keep advocating for restructuring. But that is when you restructure the polity, because the structure as we have today does not tolerate this seemingly very good arrangement that you have just said, so that the squabbles will be lessened, and then all other issues that tend to bedevil our political development would have been taken care of and solved. But we are not even talking about just that. We're talking also about collapsing the structure that we have today from the 36 states, whereby many of them cannot even fund themselves, to something around 6 administrative zones. If you like, call it region, if you like, call it state, if you like, call it whatever, but let us prune it down from 36 to 6. That way, a lot of money will be released for capital expenses that is needed to move this country forward. Because when you look at in the economics of Nigerian system, almost 70 to 75% in some cases of the budget of each year at both state and federal level go to the current expenses. And government is biggest spender in every economy. If such expenses go to recurrent, so what now do you use to jumpstart the capital projects? And that is why we now rely on borrowing. When you now borrow to put in capital projects, it now have a reverberating effect in the long run on the economy, and that is why we are where we are today. So when we talk about restructuring, we are not only talking about issue of true fiscal federalism, we're also looking at political restructuring that will enhance the economics, the political economy of Nigeria. Now back to zoning. Issue of zoning. You rightly said, why not we rotate it among the 6 geopolitical zones? As we speak today, the pendulum has always been swinging north and south.
Yes.
At least with respect to from 1999, in this current dispensation that we are in, 99 to 2007, south. 2007, going forward, you went to north, and peradventure and accident of death, it came back to south. And it has always been in PDP. Now, the 2 main political parties, PDP and APC, are the ones talking about this issue of zoning. Other lesser parties, with due respect to them,
Other parties.
No, but if I even use the word lesser, I'm not mistaken, because the law says that if any party does not win an election, the party will be delisted. So you cannot compare a party that has produced many governors with a party that has not produced even a member of House of Assembly. But due respect to them, other parties are not worried about zoning. Now, the problem and the challenge we have today is that PDP, the last president of PDP extraction, came from southern Nigeria. PDP, some elements in PDP are now arguing that the next president of PDP extraction, and of course, you must first become a flag bearer before you will now get the assent of the people to become the president, will be of northern extraction. And when you now come to the north, because you have northeast, northwest, and north central, the argument will now be north west has produced president, northeast has not, north central has not. That is a logical argument. And people are now pushing it towards northeast, so that power of inclusion will be there. You now come to the second big party, the APC. The current president is of APC extraction. So it follows that the next flag bearer of APC will be from the south, because the current president is from the north, following the pendulum of north and south. And even when you now think in that direction, the issue of whether it will go to northeast, southeast, southwest, and south remains to be determined by that party called APC. So I think this issue of zoning, as sensitive as it is, has to be understood with a mindset of inclusion, with a mindset that it is a party thing. It is not a national consensus. If it were, we would have included it in our constitution. And what my sister Lero is now possibly advocating is that we make it a national consensus, such that it keeps moving round. We have 6 geopolitical zones, but Nigeria must recognize these zones in our constitution
Would
first.
you prefer that the lawmakers actually look at this?
I would prefer so. And not just that. I would prefer also that the lawmakers look at collapsing the 30 states. It's a Herculean task.
36 states?
Yes, into 6 administrative states.
Are you prepared to lobby that?
I am prepared. We are doing that already. In the movement for Nigerian restructuring, one of the cardinal things we do in public advocacy and our interaction with the people is to impress it on the leaders of Nigeria that we really need to shrink our bogus bureaucracy. We have to, unless we don't want this country to grow.
I'm a little at a loss when you talk about this politics of zoning in the light that you're talking about it, and I'll tell you why. I think it's the Northwest that has 7 states.
Yes, Northwest.
And the Southeast has 5 states.
Yes.
The average there are those who opine it should be 6 states per region.
Per region.
Okay. Now, this is the challenge that we have now. So how, if you would postulates, would you have that division done? Which state will now jump to be part of the Southeast? Which state will now be delisted from the Northwest?
That is if we maintain the 36-state structure. We want the 36-state structure to be shrunk into 6 administrative structures.
Which politician do you think will agree to that?
Which politician created the 36 states?
But
it was created by human beings and created by the military, who, with due respect to them, have not given it deep economic thought. And possibly they did not know it would go this way. The pressure has been coming from the people. Even under the current dispensation, there are requests for about creation of 20 more states in Nigeria.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Does it make sense to anybody?
People are advocating for more states. Every single hamlet would prefer to be
It is because of the natural greed in every human being. Everybody wants to be the lord of the manor. Everybody wants a chiefdom unto himself, not thinking progressively about the future of the country. Look at the way we are today. Where we are today is a sorry situation. So sorry that our debt alone will sweep us off our feet. And what are we leaving for the future generation? We should be talking about productivity and not continuous increment in bogus expenditure through recurrent bills of government.
But this is what you have. This is where we are now.
Yes.
And the whole idea of this conversation is just so people will even understand what the issues are. Because at the end of the day, people are left, okay, to just the choices that the parties have made for them.
Yes.
And it's just at this point
that
we are now, where the delegates, a collegiate of sorts, choose who flag the
flag
flag of which party for whatever post that is open in the land.
Yes.
And so the question now is, this politics of zoning, the way you have designed it, it would seem like it's different strokes for each of the political parties. You've talked about, you've analyzed, so to speak, how the PDP would be thinking towards a particular region and how the APC would be thinking towards a completely different region, especially for those two main political parties. And as you said, maybe other parties are not even thinking about it. But the question a number of people will be asking you, Mr. Nzako, is, let me use the street balance. Who's owning EP?
Zoning.
Because at the end of the day, just 1 second, at the end of the day, many people are wondering, look, when you want to get a job in Fred Nzako and Co., it doesn't matter
the tribe of the person.
Tribe or sentiment.
Competence is what you're looking for.
Competence, fine. Competence, fine. Is there no competent person or people? Are there no competent people in every zone? Are there none?
Which raises the question. Which raises the question, Mr. Nzako. Should it matter? Is the question.
You know why it matters, Ayo? It matters because our political development is still very delicate. They call it nascent. I'll stop using the word nascent because we cannot become toddlers for life. We have graduated from being a nascent democratic environment to a delicate democratic environment.
Which is worse.
Which is
worse.
Which makes it imperative that you must include everybody. That sense of belonging is extremely very important.
Do you think
that sense of inclusiveness?
Do you think
if you say you come to my zone and you want to tell me, for example, that there are no competent people in my zone?
No. That's not the point.
Good. Now the point is this: because of the delicate nature of our collective existence in a country called Nigeria, if you don't zone, at least tacitly. Because the current zoning is not a constitutional thing, it's a political understanding among the gladiators and those who are leaders of the people, who in their mindset feel that what is good for the goose is also good for the gander.
You still don't have
when it goes to north, let it come to south.
You haven't answered my question.
Your question is issue of who zoning help. Not be so. It helps everybody. Everybody. because everybody will have a sense of inclusion.
Okay,
everybody will have a sense of fairness, equity, and judgment.
Let's prod this a little deeper.
Yes.
With these questions are being asked because the one political party is choosing its candidate today. Whether or not the zoning arrangement is going to play a role, we don't know. The delegates have to vote, choose as they want. Whether or not there is some instruction from wherever, nobody knows.
Of course, you can trust that there will be instructions.
Okay. I don't know because
you are not there, but I can tell you that there will be instructions.
The angle of the conversation is this. When we had Chief Olusegun Obasanjo as president, it's not that we didn't have issues even in the Southwest. When we had President Goodluck Jonathan in office, it's not that we didn't have issues in the South-South.
Yes.
The president today is from the Northwest.
Yes.
We know what is happening in the Northwest as we speak. So, again, I ask, of what benefit is the zoning arrangement when it doesn't in any way place any advantage on that particular region?
We are not even talking about advantage. It's not supposed to be an ultimate advantage to the region or the zone where the president comes from, because he's the president of the country. But that psychological sense of inclusion is very important, because if you juxtapose it with lack of zoning, because if you're only looking at balancing between north and south, what of when there is no such balancing and the power resides in one place permanently by manipulation anyhow? In other African countries, you begin to ask yourself, how come one man will be in power for 32 years, 35 years? You want to tell me that the people are all happy about it? That is the beauty of democracy. Tenure. Maximum 8 years. Maximum. You must exit. That's the beauty of our current democracy. So if you don't inculcate zoning, the backlash, you must think about it. There's an adage that says, if you think education too costs, try ignorance. If you think that zoning no help anybody, try non-zoning and see what it will.
So obviously you're an advocate of zoning.
I am.
And you mentioned federal character earlier.
Yes.
If federal character is understood and it's in the Constitution, should we not also apply federal character to this matter we're talking about?
The zoning recognizes federal character. As a matter of fact, zoning is built on the principle of federal character. And what is federal character? Federal character is do not allow any particular section of the country to overbear itself,
oppress
other sections of the country.
Which is one of the elements, one of the principles, objectives of the Constitution.
And that is the foundation
upon which zoning thing.
And that's the foundation upon which zoning is built.
Okay. Yes. Is there such zoning in the big economies of the world other than the US and the UK? The Chinas of this world, the Rwandas of this world, which is, I mean, we know, it was just 1994, just about 5 years before we came into this Fourth Republic.
Politics is local. Every people in plural now, every people now determine their fate based on their own experience, and that experience is anchored on their history, their current experience, and where they want to go.
So where does Nigeria want to go?
Nigeria as of today is confused. As of today is confused. And that is why we want and advocate that Nigeria be restructured so that we can get where we want to go. As of today, we are not going to where we want to go. No. And now if we now want to look at other countries and use them as an example, go and also look at their history, their past experience, and where they want to go. That is very destructive.
Switzerland is a relatively small country.
Yes.
But they have zones.
They have zones.
And in those, I mean, the presidency or whatever it is that the prime minister or whoever governs the country, it comes from One zone at a time.
At a time.
And it is understood.
And their own is clearly understood in their law books.
And it is one of the most peaceful countries in the world.
So that is a very strong example of a country that has made use of zoning, so that has worked for them.
Now, we understand federal character, you know, as an element of zoning, just as you have said.
Yes.
It is included in our laws and all of that.
Yes.
So if that is the bedrock of this zoning conversation,
yes,
and it's taken us 23 years to get to where we are, and of course the 1999 Constitution is not brand new in that sense, elements of previous constitutions have made up what we have today.
Absolutely.
What do you think is responsible for us not including zoning? Because this whole political permutation of regions, Geo-6 geopolitical zone, it came up, I think, during the 1995 political conference under the Abuja government, and that happened. But today, it doesn't seem like we officially recognize it as a country. So what do you think is staving that off?
The will. We call it political will, even though it has been used over time in all manner of expressions. We call it political will. And it can happen when the people decide to sit together and talk to themselves. We had a conference under Jonathan in year 2014, and all the report of that conference have not seen the light of the day. The conference of 1994-95 under Abuja that you talked about, which Alexei Poeme's minority report was the one that captured this zoning arrangement, and it was put in place. And today, Nigeria is using it, and it is working. And that is why we say, if you see something that is working, why not adopt it and make it a constitutional issue? Then my sister's Alero's advocacy, following Switzerland experience, we now make a lot of meaning.
Do you see that happening?
From zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Do you see that happening?
And the rest.
Because the understanding we have, I mean, as of today, is that the Switzerland example that she gave, for instance, we know who the third president in waiting is.
Yes.
President in waiting in Switzerland. We know who it is already. The country
at least
already
we know which zone is going to go to.
So, do you see that happening in our nation anytime soon?
That is why we want our people to think and work for the progress of this country. If we don't work towards it, it will not happen. If we work towards it, it will happen. And that is why this recognition of the North and South divide will not go. It will not, because of that amalgamation of 2014. The zoning, the state geopolitical zonal structure has, to a very large extent, mitigated the initial tribal sentiment that we're having in Nigeria, whereby the three major ethnic regions tend to overload it over other minorities. But now, you no longer talk about major and minor. You don't talk about the zone. Wherever it comes to your zone and your people find you very competent, then they will throw you up and bring you out to the rest of the country to lead for leadership. So that balancing of power cannot go so soon. And we don't even want it to go, because we are human beings.
But you know, one of the things that I've seen which is making this interesting and important is that it was, for instance, International Children and Youth's Day yesterday.
Yes.
I don't know whether your children disturbed you the way they disturbed
every child will naturally disturb.
Even the one that has had children
have some
already.
Fun and enjoy themselves.
Well, you know, in what ways do you think the children are being factored into all of these considerations, political considerations and permutations that we're talking about? In what ways do you think our policies, our politics, our polity is factoring in children and the future into all of our political permutations and postulations?
Unfortunately, I must tell you that not much is being done in terms of the future. Not much. And I'll tell you why. If the adult today is taking a lot of loans that will be paid by the children tomorrow, what are you leaving behind for them?
Debt.
If you, as a father, you are not working towards unity, what are you leaving behind for them? If you are not working towards security of their life, what are you leaving behind for them? When will that tomorrow come? If the youth are leaders of tomorrow, when will their tomorrow come? There is not too young to run matter and all that. No, those are semantics. Those are rhetorics. If you plant yam today and you don't tend it, put it, allow it to climb a stalk, to grow, receive fresh oxygen, and give you adequate tuber under the soil, it will come out with very tiny tuber. Nigeria is not planting and tending their children. They are only planting. The tendering aspect of it is sectional and not adequately covered. Nigerian children and Nigerian youth are not receiving the best from their fathers and mothers of today.
Which raises this other question of concerning this zoning that we're talking about.
Yes.
You know, you talked about inclusion and all.
Yes.
We talk about out-of-school children. We don't even know the exact figures, depending on who you are.
And the figure keeps rising.
So the UN says about 18.5 million.
The UN says 18.5 million. The federal government says maybe 13 million. They also say it's 10 million.
14 million.
In other words, we have at least 10 million children out of school.
Not less than
In
that.
a country that says all children must go to school.
To school.
In the Constitution.
Yes.
Please add that.
Yes.
In other words, I don't. Let me not go there. So, how does zoning help to champion the issues, especially the ones that may be peculiar to the specific individuals in each of these regions? There are those who would look at the books, for instance, and say the number of out-of-school children in the north is. I recall former President Olusegun Obasanjo saying that if we do not put these children back in school ASAP, we're already raising an army of terrorists for the future.
Yes.
So the question then again is, how does zoning help to solve our problems forward?
No, Ayo, zoning does not solve such problem. What the problem zoning solves is problem of determination of leadership, so that there won't be cantankerous situation that will cause crisis. When there are crises, don't forget that women and children suffer the most. So anything that will be put in place to ensure that they don't suffer will be appreciated. So that is what zoning does. And when that zoning now, within that zoning structure, you will try to throw up the man or woman that will now further the ideals of governance. Zoning on itself is not the end. It's only a means to the end. The end is good governance. So if without zoning there will be a crisis, why not you adopt zoning? So that you keep away that one leg of crisis that is potential. You now face the other leg, which is how do we deliver good governance to the people, so that the children, the youth and the women will benefit and have beautiful future that you are talking about.
Do you think the delegates who are making the choices from today understand this thing that you're talking about?
Unfortunately, I do not think so. Most unfortunately, I do not think so. I only wish that they will listen and hear us, and then they will think. And thinking in direction of when they are placed with choices, that is what we call between the deep blue sea and the devil. One is better than the other. All right? Because one will give you some life, and one will dismiss the life instantaneously. Now, if you are placed with choices, you now think, which option is best for me? Which option is best for my own children? And that is what we are talking in delegates. Do not only think of which option will increase my bank account. Think of the option that will be best for you today and for your children tomorrow. And unfortunately...
Are you not being unfair to these people? Because, I mean, when if they think, as you say they should do, and not accept all the perks that are being offered them, they will return to their local governments. And then what happens to them when they get to their local governments?
They'll be asked questions. They should be able to defend their actions.
But that may be the end of their political career.
American democracy started by 13 men locking themselves up to sign that treaty that brought what we have as America today. And by the time they came out, they had already written their wills, ready to die and to be stoned to death by their people. They eventually, at the end of the day, turned out to be celebrated as heroes. We want people who will think in that direction so that this country will get better over time. Today, the delegates are voting. Tomorrow, some other delegates will vote in the other parties, and along the line in between, other parties are throwing up their candidates. At the end of the day, Nigerians will be left with choices presented to them by these delegates who don't even know that they're holding the future of Nigeria in their hands.
You're asking these delegates to die for Nigeria. Would you die for Nigeria?
Alero, it does not warrant them to die.
No, you said they should be prepared to die.
No. I use that as an example of self-sacrifice. Yes, they have to sacrifice some perks and ensure that they vote in the right persons to lead this country. That is the responsibility of the delegates. So that by the time they throw up the candidates, the rest of Nigerians will now make a choice out of the whole lot.
Now that you are saying, now that you said that we should, you know, agree to collapse the 36 states into 6 administrative regions. I'm wondering how many, which 36 men and women or 6 men and women will write their wills and enter into a room. Don't answer that question today, please.
And agree.
And agree. Mr. Fred Nzako, Secretary General, Movement for Nigeria's Restructuring, and he is also a legal practitioner. Thanks so much for joining us.
Many thanks. Many thanks.
Okay. I don't know if Alero is planning to... anyway, we'll be back after now. Please stay with us.
Planning to do what? Thank you for staying with us. Now, let's look at this law against ransom payment. Last month, the Senate passed an amendment to the Terrorism Prevention Act of 2013, which prohibits ransom payment to kidnappers. Yeah, like I said to Ayo when he read it at the beginning of the segment, oh yeah, it's okay for you to say your brother wasn't the one who was kidnapped, your father wasn't the one who was kidnapped, so you're telling me not to pay ransom. So how do you plan to bring my father back home to me?
I'm not the one to ask.
He can't even answer.
I can't answer that question, please.
Okay. Well, we have a panel of security experts this morning who are going to look at this with us this morning, and we're going to discuss this at length. It's my pleasure to welcome in our studio in Lagos the former Regional Vice President, ACES, Sheyi Adetayo. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. And we have Laddie Thompson joining us via Zoom. He's in Vancouver. Oh, you don't want to come back home?
Kindly unmute so we can hear you.
Ooh. Yes, I'll be back before you blink your eyes. It's a pleasure to hear your voice.
I just blinked.
All right.
You're not back.
Yes, let me begin with you, Sheyi. Now, what do you think about this law?
Well, it's a good law, but rather coming too late. We've allowed ransom payments to have gained roots in the country and made kidnapping a very big business. It's now a multi-million-dollar business in Nigeria. But for the family of the victim, it's a catch-22 situation. Yes. Either way, none is presenting good options. If you pay ransom, you get arrested. If you don't pay ransom, your family member get killed. So,
but sometimes you pay and your family member still gets
killed. So most cases, in those situations, people don't usually ask for proof of life before they make payment. At times the victim must have been shot, about to die, then they agree on a particular sum of money, they collect the money and then throw the body out there. But usually, is if it is K4R, that is kidnap for ransom, their aim is to get money out of it, and it has become a big business in Nigeria. We've allowed this to fester, and now we're in a situation where it is very, very difficult to control, except we begin to put some state machinery, to activate some state machinery and make criminality not to be motivating anymore, because right now crime pays in Nigeria, and the government is responsible. Most importantly, the state governments are responsible for the level which crime has actually gone. You may want to ask why I'm blaming state government. From Amnesty International report just last month or so, states that we have about 3,036 are waiting on death row inmates in Nigerian prison. These are those whose case has been finalized. And the reason why we're having this, we still have those that have been, convicted and condemned to death, but they are still trying to appeal. But we are, for those who are currently in the prison, not the ones that escaped in Edo or Imo, but those that are currently in prison are 3,056 of them. Now, these are people that have committed crimes, that they are the one trying to train others in the prison, making them to be hardened criminals. And when people see that when I commit crime, even if I'm sentenced to death, they will not eventually kill me. In the last 15 years, we've only executed 7. Since 2007 till date, only 7 condemned criminals. Only 7. And when we continue to, at the end of the day, these people will be plotting how a jailbreak will come. And the moment they have one, they are back. That's the reason why we say the problem in Southeast today. Majority of the guys that are currently killing in Southeast are those guys who escaped from Igbo prison. Those who escaped from Kogi prison break, Edo prison break, they are from Southeast Eastern origin. They are back to their trenches and they are committing all these heinous crimes.
How do you know that the ones from Edo are also, from the South?
They are the first to be broken out of prison. And then we saw cases where some of them actually went back to their villages and killed the people who actually put them in prison.
Oh, God.
The reports are there.
Pastor Oladi Thompson, do you agree with Mr. Adetayo here that it's a good law, but it has come too late? Or should I say not too, rather late?
Okay, I think his premise is sound. But again, when we want to look at issues like this, it's good for us to situate them first so that we don't end up with a tunnel vision. First of all, the policy of non-negotiation primarily is a policy that I think it was 1973, Richard Nixon, I think then was the president of America. And some hostages were taken in Khartoum, including 3 Westerners, by some Palestinian terrorist organization. And when they got on the phone to the President Nixon, he was the one who, that famous phrase, "We don't negotiate with terrorists." And when he made that statement, it sort of became the standard mantra. And it's actually the US and the UK that have pushed that policy the most. Nations like France, Spain, and these other countries, when it comes to terrorism, because I want us to be very careful, because enacting a law that is focused as helping in this war against terror is different from looking at the general issue of kidnappings. What we have in Nigeria that's made kidnapping rampant and common, really and truly, is because we're involved in a war against terror. Now, the challenge we have here is this. Before any nation can make a law for non-negotiation with terrorists or kidnappers, 2 things have to be very, very clear. Once those 2 things are not clear, it will be very unfair to the people. You see, I was tempted to send you a phone conversation of negotiations with families whose children have been kidnapped. Don't forget that my constituency was the first to be attacked by this line of terrorism. So if I played you a phone conversation to see the way they are dealing with the kidnapped persons in the background, haranguing the families to bring money, or else your son, your daughter will die, you're going to find out that we are going to approach this matter with a lot more gravitas than we are looking at it right now. Even as we are speaking right now, I want to tell you something. This conversation is part of the war against terror, if we situate it properly. Why do I say so? The people who are sponsoring terrorism are listening. Those whose people have been kidnapped are listening. The way we granulate this affects a lot of the key players, including moles who are in government, moles in security, who want to hear exactly how is the public processing this. So you're going to find out that we are going to have to do something, do ourselves a favor in Nigeria. One, we can't blindly, without thinking, continue to follow foreign nations doing things because people do it. Before you pass this kind of law, there's something you must have in place in any country. And what is that? You must have a value system that has already given premium value to the life of your citizen. Now, if you have a reputation of defending the lives of your citizens to be hilt, this has nothing to do with what is written on paper right now. We're talking about the practice. You have a reputation that you touch a Nigerian anywhere in the world, and you have 200 million of us to reckon with, because we will not let you go until you give account for messing up in Nigeria. Then you find out that when such a law is put into place, because the life of every citizen has been highly valued. Now, if you want to put that kind of law into place and you're using, the organs of government, you have governors who have gone out to appease, not even pay kidnappers. You have soldiers who are kidnapped, police officers that were kidnapped. No matter what anybody says, and the theory that is going out there, the ransoms were paid. So he was right in saying that this is coming a bit late, which is why you need to granulate deeply. Why is this coming now? Who are the actors behind it? Now, are they planning to launch a campaign to give value to the life of the Nigerian citizen? Number one. Number two, are they planning another campaign, major campaign, to ideate, introduce an ideology into Nigeria that makes the young Nigerian, the citizen, the father whose daughter has been kidnapped, the wife whose husband has been taken, that makes them to say, I believe in Nigeria. There's a value, there's a vision, there's a place we are going. Now, if this is the price that is going to cost my family to be part of the idea, the visionary future of Nigeria, then maybe with all pain, we're going to take this. Then again, before you do this kind of thing, I would have expected that with the rampant way this thing has been going on, because I can tell you, I know the people who have been involved personally. I'm talking about live conversations. I'm talking about, practical issues here now. I mean, if your daughter, your son, was the one taken, all this professional talk will take up the value. Now, it is not right to pay.
Oh dear.
I believe that you are trying to unmute or something, because that suddenly went off. But while you're dealing with that, Pastor Thompson, let me ask you, Mr. Adetayo. Now, he said something that is quite striking, which is that various publics are listening, trying to pick which one favors them, which one doesn't favor them. But the angle of that phone conversation with terrorists that he mentioned is brought the message home, I would say, because, I mean, you're far away. Let's just hypothesize. You're far away in maybe in Dubai or Khartoum or somewhere, or in Rwanda, and then you just hear a teacher over the phone beating your child. Beating. You put the child in the school. This is not a kidnap situation. No. You put your child in the school, and you can hear your child being spanked, being beaten for one thing or the other, justifiable or otherwise. It definitely brings the message, the picture of the kidnap situation home. Do you think that picture came into play when the considerations for this adjustment to the Terrorism Prevention Act?
You see, the law for our loved ones takes principal consideration when we are faced with things like this. I think we've gone past the level that Pastor Thompson is trying to paint here. Even America, they pay ransom. The biggest player in the industry today, AIG of the US, East Coast of the UK, that the biggest K for her ransom payment under insurance policy in the world. We need to be realistic here when we're dealing. It's a big business globally. And you see, 75% of Fortune 500 companies, the records are there. You can check. They have a kidnap for ransom insurance policy. That, because they're operating in difficult areas. And this insurance company steps in the moment this thing happens. In spite of America, we don't negotiate with terrorists. You see, when it comes to, welfare of your organization, of your employees, your family members, comes first. And that is what we're seeing played here in Nigeria. They've gone to a level where families don't even report to police anymore. They'll quickly talk to the kidnappers, pay ransom, and first of all, secure the release of their loved ones before they now start talking to the police. That's why I said that it's coming rather too late. And for us to be able to address this, we need to actually look at our criminal justice system. It is already almost collapsed. If it's taking 3, 5, 10 years to prosecute a kidnapper, then we're in trouble. But if we can quickly dispense of all these cases, and we'll see how those who have been arrested and prosecuted for kidnap have been handled immediately. Others will be discouraged and say, oh, if a moment I'm caught within 3 or 5 months, my case is determined. And then so we have to show people that there is punishment for a crime. If you commit this crime, there is repercussion for it. There is none in the country. That is the problem that we're having right now. Everybody, okay, look at elections yesterday. People are killing people openly. Why? And the same people, you see them receiving political appointment tomorrow.
Sorry.
That's the problem we're having.
Where did this happen?
Election where?
Primaries elections that are happening in the country, with their pictures. And in Alimosho, somebody was killed. The pictures are there on social media. The video of the attack. These people are carrying out this thing right there in public there. There are videos. You see the same person carrying out or committing this crime. Tomorrow is holding one party positions or the other. That is the nature, that is the level we are in this country today. Crime space, and you see those following those warlords, and they see that their leaders are being rewarded for thuggery, for being executioner. They also believe that when they go out to go and kill, it will help them to rise in rank. We are paying crimes and criminality in Nigeria, and that's the reason why this thing is going on. We need to actually address our criminal justice, and it has to start with, one, the police, because the police actually they are responsible for maintenance of law and order, arrest and charging people. Then we also need to look at the court system. Our court system is very bad. Then we also need to look at our prison system. See, these three components of our criminal justice system must be addressed holistically.
Essentially, you're saying that even though it came too late in the day, even the structures that can help this law to stand on its 2 feet, they are not strong enough. Okay. Well, Pastor Thompson, you were making some point before the interruption that we had. You may want to land, yes, you may want to land on that. But and then you also painted that picture, quite clearly to us that those who have interests in these issues, they are listening, they are watching, and they are trying to find how they will granulate these issues to the advantage or disadvantage of any of the parties involved. Is there a future where some of the issues that are troubling, and to use one of your words, bedeviling our system, is there a future where we don't see them as prominent and as strong, as effective on our system anymore?
But I think what this brings us to, one counsel I would give us, because of factors that are coming to, is to apply what we call the mathematization of inquiry. Why am I saying so?
We can hardly hear you, Pastor Thompson. I don't know what's happening. Could hear you, but maybe not so clearly. I don't know exactly what happened. Kindly help to deal with that. So now this is where we have on our hands, and what we have on our hands, Mr. Aditayo. And one of the issues that troubles me, is that a good number of the people that we're talking about here, and there are those who have, and I'm sure you've heard quite a lot about this as well in your practice. A good number of the people here that we're talking about are young people. The issues that are involved here, you talked about the warlords that are sponsoring them, and people who are behind these things, and the sentiments of our people. Is there a meeting point anywhere where the warlords who are fomenting, financing all of these things, the system, the country, the laws, the states that you talked about, and even the people whose sentiments are at play? Do you see a meeting point where these things can just taper down, simmer down to a degree where we don't have to worry so much about ransom payments?
Well, there's an aspect of what Pastor Thompson mentioned, which has to do with our value system. We can't do this without the people. We need to carry the people along and win the hearts and the mind of the people. If the people are not ready to support this, then the government will not be able to achieve anything. And for people to be able to have that confidence that we can support what the government is saying, government must also demonstrate enough willingness and capability that will give that assurance or comfort that the people are actually looking at. So, like you were saying,
I apologize. Before you continue, that trust element that you talked about, we all know, it's been greatly depleted.
Definitely.
It's like a bank account that's almost bankrupt. You just have to go to the bank. Otherwise, there is almost no withdrawal that you can make. So, in that light, is there a way to refund that bank account of trust so that people can actually be able to make withdrawal from it?
We have to look at other countries that have been faced with similar problem. Look at Colombia, look at Mexico, and see how far they've been able to go. As it is today, even in Mexico, the drug lords are controlling different parts, and it's becoming very difficult. If you look at Philippines, they had a president, I think President Duarte also, who tried to, but the first thing Duarte did was to actually try to win the hearts of the people, to say, I am willing to fight drug. And I'm willing to ensure that your sons are able to live in a community. I need your support. So first of all, even though an awkward approach that international community frowned at, but we saw that along the line the people supported, his approach, and they joined that war. I don't know which approach the Nigerian government will want to take, but it must be a method that must be able to win the heart and mind of the Nigerian people, and it starts with demonstration of your resolve as a leader that I want to put an end to this. Now look at this. See, the kidnappers, especially in the north central, northwest, they don't even select. In the southern part of Nigeria, they look for the rich. Initially, they started with expatriates, then guys in the oil and gas, then they start stopping vehicles. But so that even those guys that are now picking people in 14-seater buses, 16, 18-seater buses, they are from a particular part. Because if you look at that, their modus operandi, for those who are from that, they don't care The moment they pick you, they know that one way or the other, there's something about Nigerian society. We don't want our loved ones to die. We will rally around. That's why you see that someone who cannot even afford to eat very well end up paying 5 billion, 2 million ransom. The family will one way or the other gather, and they've tried that, they've seen that it's working. Look at the school in Kaduna, that polytechnic that was attacked. Look at how families were able to raise over 100 million with motorcycles and the rest. And then you wonder, these are people, some of them does not even have a house. And some of them had to sell their house and pull this money together. They've seen that Nigerians will bring out this money. And that's why I'm saying that this is coming rather too late. We've allowed these things to fester. We've allowed every Tom, Dick, and Harry to now come into that business.
But that's not to say it's too late or completely hopeless.
No, it's not. That's why I'm saying that it will take us more effort. We need to do more for us to be able to. And it starts with the willingness of the leader to say, I'm ready to do everything possible to win the trust of the Nigerian people. Please, I want you on board. Join me in doing this, and it will. You'll see that Nigerians will pay.
That's a tall order. But Pastor Thompson, the issue of Nigerians looking at this as a profitable business, and it's all that way because the legal system, I have to choose my words carefully here, does not seem to take care of business in a timely manner such that it would prevent crime. It's like crime now pays. So the most profitable enterprise in Nigeria now, the most profitable enterprises, is either you go into politics or you become a criminal, because the chances of you getting caught and being brought to justice are very, very slim. So how do we start the process of removing criminality from a profitable business, status?
You see, there's a big trap that we're about to fall into. And that's why I said that we need to mathematize inquiry. What are the primary drivers of kidnapping in Nigeria? How do we separate it from the opportunistic ones? How do we separate it from those who came with the bandwagon effect? Now, are we sure that when we look at the facts and figures in Nigeria, we cannot trace where this kidnapping really came from, and the fact that somebody somewhere has thought out a process of destabilizing the nation towards a purpose? And once you don't think deep enough to know that we are not getting kidnapping in Nigeria because of drug pushers. We are not having kidnappings in Nigeria because it happens to be just lucrative. No, somebody is driving a narrative. We are in a war of terrorism. A war of terrorism drives narratives. The 85% of kidnaps for ransom that blew things apart in this country was based on an ideology. Now, once you ignore that, we are back again to the confusion between bandits, terrorists, and all that, and who is smiling at the end of the day while we are diverting attention from where the root of the problem is. Now, the opportunistic ones come because somebody is showing the nation, somebody is plotting for the nation, destabilizing the nation, using terror as a clinical instrument. The reason why he's going for common people is because media is a force multiplier. He wants the common person to lose faith in Nigeria. He wants the common person to know. Now, the same person is infiltrating the forces. The same person is controlling policies that terrorists who have been arrested can be deprogrammed and ready to join armed forces. And we sit down and we think that if we don't deal with this as a systemic problem and think to the depth that it is, and then we start comparing cholera to Ebola, do we think that we will ever get a solution to this? So let's not make any mistakes about this at all. If we mathematize our inquiry and we look at what is going on in Nigeria, we'll be able to separate the opportunistic, lawless brigands that are a response. Now, let me say something to us. Nigerians are good people. So it's not poverty that is driving this thing. There's somebody destabilizing the nation, making sure nobody has a hope in the future. When hopelessness is joined to poverty, it becomes terrible. So when a set of persons mathematically and clinically plot out a cause, and it is working for them, if the thinkers in that nation begin to use templates that don't work, that are not fitted with what we're dealing with here, honestly, we have just started. What we're seeing will continue to degenerate. I almost am crying because I have been privy to this at a personal level, standing with families, knowing the clinical, look, the people who are behind the kidnappings, the people who do the kidnappings, the people who collect the money, look, this thing has an intricate setup. The people who supply the information, the people who are really behind all this are extremely intelligent. And if we go and isolate them and don't pick the root of the problem, we're going to be going around in circles, like we have been going around in circles. So if Nigeria does not bring a superior ideology that will make its people patriotic, if Nigeria does not bring a superior value system, if Nigeria does not do all that, how will policemen be loyal? How will soldiers be loyal? Are we pretending as if we don't know the amount of infiltration that is going on in Nigeria?
Well, Pastor Thompson,
that is fueling this whole matter?
It's not that
it's
not that we didn't know where we were coming from. I want to believe that we all know that at some point in our country, we had these values, so much so that they are entrenched in the Constitution. You said it the other time that it's not just about the letters, because we already have them in letters. But even in the spirit, so to speak, in practice, you know, communities had a way of living in such a way that they took care of everybody's children like it's their own. I don't know if that system still happens now the way it was back in the day. Alera and I, at the beginning of the program, were talking about how we grew up, you know, as children, where there was communal upbringing. Everyone brought up everyone's children. But those values have petered over the years. They have tapered out of our existence over the years. How? If values, because you and Mr. Adeta ought to have, seem to have agreed on that, if values are as prominent, as important in the fight against terrorism, and we are putting the only, the last weapon or the last pillar we have on the line, which is hope that you talked about, how do we begin to reverse our steps to the point where we can begin to strengthen the values as pillars that can help us to win this war you talk about?
Well, we are going to have a lot more foresight in our planning, in our future planning. Let me tell you why. In 1980, Professor C.O. Taiwo wrote a paper on the future, on education in Nigeria, past, present, and future. One of the highlights of that paper he submitted was the fact that he quoted that in 1906, the gap between northern and southern Nigeria in terms of education was 50 years. By 1980, it had moved to 75-year gap. And the projection in 1980 was that by 1990, if nothing is done, the gap will move to 100 years. And the point was that once that gap in education moves to 100 years, it was said that the results would be gruesome. Now, at that time, they had not even foreseen the new kid on the block. They had not seen global terrorism coming into the country. So now that we have seen that this is what is going on, we are going to have to do something right now. We are going to have to put on our thinking caps, to put on what we call some disruptive, there has to be a disruptive solution to the systemic problems we have. We have 17 million street waifs in Nigeria. If we continue to do what we are doing, and we're talking about agriculture, taking them to the farm, listen, they will destroy this country. But this is a day and age where every nation in the world is acquiring artificial intelligence, nanotechnology. There are, listen, all we need to do right now is to realize that educating people doesn't mean they have to go through primary school, secondary school, and the old structures. I'm talking about disruptive, original thinking. When a nation realizes that, look, this is not going to work, we have an emergency. Certification. For instance, if you do it in such a way that a child is born, you mandate a degree of certain education. Let's look at what we call the Ajami writing and the education in northern Nigeria. How can we find thinkers who can draft that into the construct that we have right now and use it as a base to train those children to have skills? Let me give you a good example. I have an office in northern Nigeria for some years. I closed it recently. I took toys to Almajiris at one time. I was shocked to see how fast an Almajiri boy was so excited at seeing a drone. Do you know that we can take an Almajiri boy today, who is 14, 15, and train him to be a drone pilot? And if the policy of the nation is inclusive of innovation, where deliveries are being made by drone security services in every company, the fly drones and all that, certification works, we create employment instantly. And Almajiri who is trained for 9 months will find an employment within Nigeria, gainful employment.
Okay.
Now, if innovative thinking comes into play, there will be creation of, I'm telling you the truth, disciplines and job descriptions that don't exist anywhere else in the world. But as long as we're not ready to think deeply enough, look, it was this man, the leader of Dubai, who said something. He said, look, when you are faced with a problem, you have two options. You can look at what everybody else has done and copy it, or you can choose to do some original thinking, to think of what nobody else has done before. Create an innovative solution. Drive it with discipline.
Is that to say, my apologies, Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Is that to say that we haven't been thinking? This issue didn't start in 2009, but it came to a head in 2009. Let me see if it's something that Mr. Adetaya may want to take up, because, excuse me, I remember, sadly, many of these issues we talk about, insecurity and all, my mind always goes back to the Metatini days. And even days and years before that, and the issues that have arisen over the years as a result of that. We've always had poverty, some of the issues. I know you want to speak to some of the issues that Pastor Thompson has raised, but if we are talking about disruptive thinking, isn't it too late?
You see, we're having too many problems right now, right in our hands. And you see, the one Pastor Thompson is talking is maybe after we've solved this problem we're having, they can start germinating. The truth is that we have a major problem that we, first of all, need to stem the tide. And you see, we have to prioritize the problem that we have right now. You see, he spoke about probably some people are behind. You see, we need to get this right. I've handled many kidnap cases, so I'm highly experienced. I've listened, I've spoken directly to kidnappers, so I'm speaking from point of experience.
Were you negotiating with them when you were speaking with them?
Somebody will talk to you. No. See, what we're talking about, you see, you're trying to rescue people. You first of all need to establish proof of life. You need to be able to get them to talk. Because the first thing the family want to know is if the person is alive. And it takes a lot for you to actually negotiate, to talk to them, to actually get to know if this person is actually alive, they are actually the real kidnappers that you want to talk to. Mm-hmm. You see, if you have had people around you kidnapped, you understand what I'm talking about. You must take, front role in trying to get a family member back at all costs. And you see, we need to get this clear here. We have kidnapping is an act of terror. And if you kidnap people, you are a terrorist. However, majority of the cases we are having are not from organized groups. They are from people, criminals, who have seen kidnapping as a profitable enterprise, are into it. Organized group carry out maybe less than 20% of all these kidnappings.
Okay, like the train.
Yes, those ones are organized groups.
Yeah.
That is an Ansaro group. And they're not doing it for ransom. They're doing it to negotiate for some demands. Yeah. Then we have the bandits in the Northwest. They are not organized groups. They don't have any ideology. See, they are carried out for economic reason. They want money. That's what all these bandits, whether they belong to yellow camp or they are criminals. And that's why they call them bandits. They are there to plunder. For those ones that are carrying out in the southern part of Nigeria, they're doing it because they want money. Ogun State, Ondo State, or your state, they are doing it for money. They are not organized terrorist organization. We need to get this right. And that's the reason why that we need to start beginning to address. If you are dealing with, a terror organization, then we know that, we have a particular approach that will. But this one has to do with us addressing issues in each environment. If you look at the genesis of the modern day kidnapping in Nigeria, the Niger Delta guys, these were populated by guys that were graduates. All cars are graduates. All of them, they are brilliant guys. We're not dealing with people as a result of because they didn't go to school or imagine, and they were fighting for a particular thing at that particular point in time, and they were collecting money from the oil and gas company, and they were paying, and they realized at a point in time that even employees are now submitting themselves to be kidnapped, so that they share the ransom with the assumed kidnapper. So what you say the oil and gas company did?
Have mercy. Did I just hear you right?
Yeah, it happened.
Why are you looking at me like that? Are you aware?
Submit yourself to be kidnapped. They collect the ransom, then the two of you share.
You share. We've seen we've passed through stages in Nigeria. And that's why you saw those companies now stopped getting involved.
Mr. Desayo, we spoke about...
I'm sorry, Alero. Pastor Somsi, are you aware of this one where you apply to be kidnapped?
You apply.
I can smell establishment 10 kilometers away. And when I talk about mathematization, I'm just saying that when people speak, if we are in a nation where there was statistics and charts that can back up what we are saying, what you're talking about right now may be sensation, but it is 0.01% of what we're dealing with. In fact, I will say with final authority here on this, I've studied this from 1999 and not from just textbooks. I'm talking about as the things were evolving. You are dealing with cell structures. You see, the point still is this. When you're up against someone who is much more intelligent than you are, you will find yourself somewhere thinking you are dealing with malaria fever, when actually you are dealing with a chronic case of COVID. What is going on in Nigeria has a lot more thinking, even the cell structures, even the reporting structures, even the things that he's talking about that look like they are random. Fashion daughter, the people who took her life, do you think this was just the opportunistic? I would like to find out what is the percentage of opportunistic kidnappings compared to that is tied to a purpose. You asked him a question just now about the train. And so that was on time. Now, how do these people operate? Do they simply operate like that, or do they also extend by creating cell structures, by outsourcing kidnappings? There's a lot of outsourcing going on. There's a bandwagon effect. And sometimes people forget. The bombing that happened in Sokoto, Kabiru left Snake Island in Lagos to go there, to go and carry it out. So we are talking about a systemic problem. You see, a wise man said something one day. He said, when you have a problem, you give him 1 hour to solve it. It's good for you to think for 55 minutes and use 5 minutes to solve the problem. Because if you rely on happenstances and don't sit back to reflect, look at the deep roots of these things, understand the movement. In fact, the truth is that there's so much we cannot see on TV. So let's not just delude ourselves whatsoever about what we are up against in the country, and the fact that if their narrative which they are selling to us, sometimes somebody wants to destroy you and they will lowering your temperature using media as a force multiplier. In fact, sometimes they send people into media to confuse others. Nigeria has a systemic problem. The value system that we have cannot uphold all these things that we're talking about. If we don't solve the foundation problems, you keep picking leaves, the country will die. I have to say this with a lot of heaviness in my heart. I'll give you a good example of the kind of things that are going on all over the country right now. Today is Children's Day. Children in the part of one country and one part of the country there are doing this, that, and that. The person who came to my mind today was Christiana Oluwashisi, the boy. And the recent things are happening in the country. I was in Gombe, 2007. And when we took out our thorough investigations on behalf of the Christian Association of Nigeria, and we found out the complicities involved in what looked like it was children who were just being wild, we were shocked. Now, there are a lot of things we can't see on TV.
Okay.
But if we are planning to have a Nigeria tomorrow, I think we need to wake up and smell the coffee while there's yet time.
Okay.
And not be moved by emotions, but take clinical decisions and tackle problems.
This is all very scary, if you ask me. But Mr. Adetayo, you spoke about the criminals, the bandits, before we went to Pastor Thompson. What kind of message do you think that the arrest of the kingpin Evans, what kind of message do you think that arrest sent to those kinds of kidnappers, the gang of bandits who are just doing it for money?
I'm not even sure that those guys actually give
a damn.
Yeah, to what happened down south here. You see, these guys have been living in the forest, and the issue around these militants didn't start now. I remember when I was on many years ago, the issue around these guys in the forest. They tagged them then as Fulani militants in the forest then, that and cause, you know, the alarm was raised then that this will soon become
Fulani herdsmen, you mean?
No, militants.
Militants.
They call them Fulani militants then. Okay. That will become a major issue, and I'm talking about 12, 15 years ago. When this issue and then we saw that so many things happened in some states in the northwest, leading to, you know, some discontentment been brought about by political involvement and the rest, and we saw how that metamorphosed into, you know, ethnic crisis in places like Zamfara and the rest, and it snowballed into what we saw happening in Zamfara then, where some people accuse other parts of killing their people, rustling their cows and stuff like that. These guys are actually different from the normal headers. They're actually a threat to the headers too, because they are the ones who rustle the cows of the headers. And there was so many, you know, street fellows from different countries joining there. It got to a point that kidnapping became so popular in sub-Saharan Africa that, you know, criminals from Mali, Nigeria, probably everybody started, you know, running into Nigeria to join one camp or the other because they can easily make money. We're talking about, see, we all speak from our background, where we're coming from, maybe things that we're involved with. And one thing I try to do as much as possible is to speak as a patriotic Nigeria and to be as honest as possible. And what we have as we speak, devoid of sentiment, 80% are criminals. We should remove religion, ethnic, away from what we have here. 80% are criminals. They have no attachment to any group. They have no attachment to anybody. They are just there to make money. The few of them that are organized groups, like the one we had of the train bomb, it was very clear. We saw it. The issue of Boko Haram, we saw it. But we had men and Niger Delta Defense Force, whatever in the Niger Delta, we saw it there. The rest, they are just criminal elements that are just trying to make money. And it has become so big that even we see people even in Lagos. A pastor was kidnapped late last year or early this year, and they picked him somewhere around the Agege area in Lagos and was kept for about three or 4 days. At the end of the day, they couldn't see any money to collect from the pastor, and they released him. And we see that same particular group kidnapping up to 4 other people in Lagos. And so you want to say that these people are working for an organized group? The answer is no.
So this speaks to the matter of unemployment all over again.
You see, it's not just about employment, it's about the value system. People want to make money at all costs. They want to drive Bentley, they want to, you see, we've seen, you know, a situation whereby we see popular musicians now, you know, the lyrics of their song, encouraging people to be so rich, to make money at all costs. They are flunking.
If you don't get money, hide your face.
So you see young boys are now leaving secondary school to go and learn, train how to be a Yahoo boy, to make money. We now see Yahoo Plus, we now see, ritual killings, all in the name of making money. So those are the ones who do not have access to guns. Those who have access to guns engage in kidnapping. Those ones who don't have access to guns
will have laptops.
Yes, they go for laptops. See, the value system in the country, we need to begin. You see, when we now see, look at the elections now. People, delegates are now being asked, you collected 2 million naira from me, you didn't vote. So being a delegate now, people will now be dying next election to become a delegate. It means that if there are 20 candidates, then if you collect 22 million from each of the candidates, you become a multi-millionaire overnight. It's not even about being a governor or House of Rep member anymore. Now it's now being about the delegates now. So we need to start addressing this issue as a nation.
Okay, well, Mr. Aditayos, as you said, I mean, maybe we are both looking at the same issues, but from different prisms, or looking at different issues from the same prism. You both agree about value systems here. The end game of all of this, what, in your opinion, is it? Let's come back to the issue of this ransom payment, the proposition to include criminalizing random payment, as being proposed in that law. Do you think it'll solve the problem of kidnapping? Do you think it'll discourage?
As a single approach, it can solve it. It has to involve multifaceted approach. There are so many other things that we need to have mentioned. Our criminal justice system, it must go side by side with our criminal justice system, our capability and capacity to respond to crime. Now, you see that largely, it is the people who are rich that easily get, law enforcement response. And the reason is that the number of kidnap cases in a day is so overwhelming. And the responders will have to look at which one will even embarrass them the most. Because which one will easily make media. Now, look at our divisional police.
You said that which one they want celebrated cases, right? That's what you just said now. Which one will, which one will attract media attention?
Social media is now very powerful. We've now seen that the best way for you to get attention is for you to make noise. You see, when somebody is kidnapped, today, you see a whole lot of people go into social media to try to pressure our law enforcement agencies to respond. The reason is that because they have so many cases, so you want to shout at the top of the roof so that yours can jump. Are you with me now? On top of the order, so that
take priority.
Take priority, so that you can quickly get response. Now let me give you an example. Look at our divisional headquarters. Show me how many of the divisional headquarters has capacity to respond to kidnap cases. They don't have. Only few have that capacity. We talk about the manpower, people that have been. How many of them in each division supposed to have capacity like a police precinct, where you have your own SWAT team?
What kind of capacity?
Well-equipped legal interception
what kind of capacity can, because there might be a need for some intelligence here. If you can just take this on before I go to Pastor Thompson. Here's someone who has been in the situation, said that, at some point, they paid 900,000 naira to a particular, some person who kidnapped, a relative. You talked about our sentiments to relatives the other time. Now, they attempt to get through to this fellow, the kidnappers. But the kidnappers were using the phone numbers of other kidnapped victims.
Yes.
Once those ones are released, they are not able to get through to the kidnappers anymore, and the phone number of their own relative is not going through anymore. So what capacity of the police that you're talking about can deal with that kind of intelligence, if not the intelligence that I think Pastor Thompson is talking about?
Right now, these criminals, at times when we try to do press release, or, we want to parade suspects, at times we'll try, our law enforcement will now narrate how those things are. In course of doing that, you tell the criminals what not to do. this is what this guy did and they got caught. So it's for them not to do it the other. So you don't actually, expose your own method.
Which is what Pastor Thompson talked about at the beginning.
Yeah. So now the issue around capacity is not just about technology alone. We need technology. You also need the manpower. You need the training, as it is. Now, and you also need the people. In a situation where the government, the law enforcement agencies, they are aware where the criminals are, but they cannot go there. Most of the ones that happen around Kogi, Ekiti axis, they know where they are, but they can't go there because a kilometer to you getting there, the kidnappers are already aware that you are approaching because they have people in the communities that we alert them and tell them security agencies are. You see,
but this is what Pastor Thompson was saying.
If you remember the case of Mr.
organized.
Ejiofor, remember the case of Mr. Ejiofor. Ejiofor, the retired DSS director.
Yes.
That when he was kidnapped, police helicopter, law enforcement helicopters were, hovering around, but they couldn't do anything. They're hovering around because they have been able to use technology. They have technology. They don't have enough to go around all the divisions to be able to cater for the numbers of cases they are receiving on daily basis. They don't have. But even when they are able to get through technology and get to know where these people, communities around those places are already compromised by those same people.
It goes back to the same. My apologies. It goes back to the same thing that Pastor Thompson was talking about: the network of activities, the organization, and everything.
Yeah. That was actually what I also said before. That I said that you need to win the heart and the mind of the people
it will surprise
to support you.
It will surprise
How
you that
do you intend to do that? Because the criminals are paying them to give them information.
But we cannot just lose hope.
Okay. Pastor Thompson, I don't know. This law against ransom, exactly. This law against ransom payment thing that you're talking about, and you're talking about, the active network of activities and all of those things. Well, it might surprise you, Mr. Adetayo, that that's not the only Mr. Ejiofor that is or was in detention or is it captivity or is still in captivity right now. So, in terms of this dilemma that we seem to find ourselves now, Pastor Thompson, this bill is being proposed by government and the people at the other end. And Mr. Adetayo calls it the catch-22. If I give ransom,
I'm damned.
I'm done for. If I don't give ransom, my relative is done for. And you've talked about a whole load of things. Where do we stand now? And what would you propose to whoever now in order to at least try to stem this?
In 1 minute, Pastor Thompson.
Well, it's like this. It's not a bad idea. It's a good idea. But floating on its own, it could be a red herring. It could just be a distraction if it floats on its own. So we need to interrogate it properly and situate it and make sure that there is an overarching plan. There's a robust all-round plan that supports it and upholds it, or else it will just have served as a distraction while other things are good. And what I'm going to say in closing is simple, is that when HIV first arrived on the scene, people were dying of different diseases. It took a while to locate that actually underneath all that, it was HIV. And once HIV was located, then attention would be focused on it. So I want to say to us that we don't have a religious problem in Nigeria. We have a supremacist agenda that is working undercover. It's a hydra. It appears in diverse forms. It shifts shape. It's extremely intelligent. It is not localized in its thinking. It is globalized in its thinking. And the earlier at truth, the better we will value the lives of our citizens.
Okay. Mr. Adetayo.
Last words.
Your last word.
We just have to come together and support the government, and government must do enough to actually win the heart of the people, to bring them on board.
And I hope that enough consultation was made with the Nigerian Bar Association regarding this, so that the issue of criminal justice system,
it's factored in,
which is important in the implementation of this is also taken care of. Mr. Sheyi Adetayo, former Regional Vice President, ACES, as well as a security expert, as well as Laddie Thompson, who is a security consultant and joined us from Vancouver. Thank you very much, both of you. And Pastor Thompson, please hurry back so that we can have you with us in the studio.
Anything you said, I promise.
Sunrise will be back in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Please join us.
That's those boys. That boy, I trained him.
Which boys?
Sunday and Tubaba and Wumi.
You train them all?
Oh, yeah, they're my boys.
Well done, well done.
When they were small, when they were children,
After all,
yeah,
we're talking children.
Especially
today.
now that we're talking children.
Yes, so those are your children.
Today, Wumi will be Happy Children's Day to you, both of you.
And well done, your mentor is very proud of you.
Mentor, mentor.
Well, that's my partner for you. Children are God's bits of wood, as they say in Francophone West Africa. You don't count them for their parents. Just accept them as God's gift. And if you have a gift and you don't look after it, well, I would say that's a sin on its own. God has given you something unsolicited, a present of which you should be proud, so you should look after it. Yesterday was Children's Day, so we're going to be looking at a better future for the Nigerian child. All kinds of laws, international laws, United Nations have been domesticated in Nigeria, and yet you still see the child in Nigeria with the rough end of the stick. You see them at a young age trading on the streets, risking their lives running between cars. You see them on farms. You see them everywhere but where they're supposed to be, which is when they're that age, they're supposed to be in school. So how do we plan to give the Nigerian child a better future? This and many more questions we're going to put to the PRO, Lagos Child Protection Council, Ali Mosho, Joy Itokudo.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really
as well as a legal practitioner and an advocate, Safe for Children Society, Olabisi Afolabi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today.
Is that to say that there are men, because I'm outnumbered here, guys. I'm outnumbered. Is that to say that men don't care about children?
Of course not.
Okay. I'm just...
Because they're not here doesn't mean that they don't care for children.
I'm just saying. Don't...
Please don't mind him.
Okay.
So, let me start with the lawyer. We have domesticated this and that and this and that. And I think the last one was the Child Rights Act. Where has that gotten us?
Thank you very much. The most ratified law in the world is the Convention on the Rights of Children. We have the one for Africa, the African Charter on the Rights of Children, and many more laws, as you've said, including the Child Rights Act. In fact, Lagos State has the Child Rights Law of Lagos State. The Child Rights Act In fact, it's domesticated in about 25 states in Nigeria as we speak, and only a few states, like 11 of them, especially in the north, is yet to ratify the Child Rights Act, because for it to work in a state, it has to be ratified, first of all. But what we have realized is that there's definitely a gap. And the gap is in two things responsible for that. Number one is enlightenment. Because, in our organization, we believe that enlightenment is superior to enforcement. Because people cannot do beyond what they know, first of all. So we have these laws that, on one end, people, both caregivers, parents, secondary parents, primary parents, are not aware of, or they're aware of it and it's conflicting with their belief system. Because the law says, oh, a child should not be, should be protected from sexual abuse, physical abuse, their rights are there in the laws. But, sometimes belief system of parents, both primary and secondary, conflict with the law. And we give people laws that they do not believe in, so they do not run it. That's the first thing. They do not know, for those who know, they do not believe that this should be the way children should be raised. Meanwhile, the law says everything should be done in the best interest of the child. Now, the other leg of this is enforcement. When a law has been made, for example, in Lagos State in 2016, there was a policy that was set up that everybody in Lagos State, anywhere children are gathered, there should be a child protection policy, for example. That was a policy that became an executive order in 2016. That particular policy, has almost no budget for enforcement because, okay, you have said people should do this thing. The law says that. What is budget for? People going around to check, are these policies in place? For places where the policy exists, are they being run? Even for government-owned institutions, I mean private school, public schools, public institutions where children gathered, this policy is being run. So the two legs are, first, enlightenment, belief system of people. Thirdly, we have the issue of enforcement. Until these laws are not just enforced, seem to be enforced, because not just because we want to make laws, because we want to see that children are being protected and their rights are enforced. Then we begin to have a conversation. So those are the issues.
Okay. That's an argument on one side of the divide, But she's spoken to the government part of it. And I know that you would want to speak to that. First of all, maybe we'll begin from there, with you, Mr. Tukudo, because there are those who are wondering if the law for children in Lagos, the Child Rights Act domesticated in Lagos, is as strong as it is supposed to be, then I don't think, such issues as she's raised would happen. And then there are many who would reference that conversation around, some children on boats in Lagos, in, ramshackled facilities in Lagos for education and all of those things. I know that government is doing its best to make sure that those things do not exist in Makoko, but they are there. So we want to begin by at least speaking to the side of this child protection council that you belong to. What does it do? What does the council do? And how does it help to solve the problems that she's raised?
Okay. Yes, thank you. What we do in Child Protection Network is to help those children get to this place of having their best interest. Because like the law says, everything should be done in the best interest of the child. But what we must know is that we have, the population in Nigeria is so much, like take for granted Alimosho, where I am the PRO. Alimosho is one of the largest local governments in Lagos State. And despite the fact that we're doing a lot as Child Protection Network, it seems like it's not enough. And one of the challenges we are having is that there's no support from anywhere. Most times, these things we do as NGOs, because Child Protection Network is a combination of several NGOs coming together to speak for the betterment of the Nigerian child. So we do these things on our own. We do child rescue. There are situations whereby people report. We have offices, especially in Alimosho. So we have offices where people can report to, or people can walk in physically, to say that a child is being abused. Some people call in anonymous and say, okay, a child is being abused, and we do child rescue. We've rescued children from their parents, we've rescued children from schools, we've rescued children, and also other things we're doing is that we're going to schools to train them, to train the teachers. She mentioned that some of these policies are in place, but the people are not even enlightened about this policy. And my boss in Child Protection Network, Ali Mosho, will always say, if you don't train them, you cannot blame them. So one thing we do is we go to schools and we train the teachers, we train the guidance and counseling person in the school to know how to bring about this best interest of the child into play as it has to do with these laws. So when we train these people, we enlighten them. We'll also go to the CDAs, local governments, to train these people so that when they get to know that this is what they should do and this is how a child should be handled, things will begin to get better. But it's still in the process. It's a gradual thing. It will take a lot for it to happen because a lot of people do not even believe in these laws. For example, there was a time we went to the market to try to train market women. And we were having questions like, are you trying to dictate to us how we're going to bring up our children?
Which is the question that I wanted to ask you. Because, I mean, some of these parents, guardians, grew up with certain value systems. Mm-hmm. How strong are those value systems in the first place? Mm. So it raises a question she talked about, enlightenment.
Yes.
You can't enlighten anyone how to raise a kid when they were raised in a particular way. They're just following a template.
Yes.
Now, there is we talked about all these treaties, resolutions, conventions, and all of that that various countries sign up to. Mm-hmm. But the understanding of those treaties and all don't percolate to the people. So we still in the space of handling children the way we were handled. A good number of people still do that. So if that's the value system they grew up with, and no one is sharing any newer values with them, how in the universe are they going to know different?
But growing up, I remember when certain things were changing in Lagos. The market women would go back home, and you would hear them saying things like, "Ijoba sokwe." The government says we should do it this way, we should do it that way. And the government has also explained to us that we should do it this way because it's going to be of this benefit and that benefit. What happened to all that kind of system?
Yes, what happened to this kind of system is that these parents that we're talking to about child protection, this is what the government has said, this is how children should be handled now. If you don't handle your children right, the government will come and take over your child. They don't go back to those systems of Ijoba Sowikpe, you understand? The government says this, the government, because they feel that presently they feel the government has failed them. So people feel in their minds that, oh, other things you have not addressed, things that concern us, you want to address my child's upbringing, you want to dictate what happened in my home, when you're supposed to give us better leadership, you're supposed to, the economic situation is terrible. And one thing we must know is that the reason why parents seem to pay deaf ears to this thing we're saying about child protection is because of the frustration that is coming from other aspects of their lives. Some people are living in abject poverty, terrible. They don't know where the next meal is going to come from. They even look at the children and they know that these kids are going to go to bed with hungry stomach. You understand?
The children who come from poor homes are not the ones who do drugs. Because drugs are extremely expensive. So I heard, except for the ones that we buy OTC. But, you know, let me come to... Not that those issues you're raising are not important. Yes. But, you know, I'm just saying perhaps it's not for economic reasons. Maybe there are some other considerations. This enlightenment thing that you talked about, it's not for the poor parents, because there are those parents who know these things who do not pay as much attention as they would need. They need to pay to those children. Thank you. As they should pay to the kids. So if they do not pay enough attention, how in the universe are they going to give attention to any laws or treaties?
Well, I would say that the issues are multifaceted, really. It still comes back to means of livelihood. The thing is that in Nigeria, an average parent is a local government chairman. And what do I mean by that? He runs his home, he provides education for his child. So that rich man wants to give his child the best education because ordinarily the child won't get it in the country. That man provides electricity, he provides everything. So most of the times, these rich people as well are overwhelmed with making more money. And children are neglected. There are 4 forms of abuse that a child can face. One is physical, one is sexual, one is emotional. Neglect is one of the most rampant and not talked about form of abuse that the children face now. Neglect. Children are being neglected, actually. Because you see, there was a study that was done in a particular country, I think it was Singapore, where children were misbehaving. A lot of crime, the crime rate was very high. And the government said, see parents who would pay you. Stay with your children for 2 hours more every day. And within a couple of years, we saw that crime rates reduced in that country. See, children that we do not have relationship with, I mean, give them rules and regulations. It will lead to rebellion. So these issues are still, interrelated. Even though they are rich people, yes. But where's the time? They're jumping from one country to another. I remember working to a school where they had to call parents, come and pick your children from school. We're consulting for the school. Come pick your children. It's holiday time. It was a boarding school. Parents said, we're not in the country, we can't come. We had to involve government agencies to ensure that they come pick the children from schools. So even the rich, the children are suffering from big time neglect. And let me also go to the fact that, see, society is society. Children are not parented by their parents alone. There are 4 rings of protection. There's the community, there's the government, we also have the parents, and we have the immediate community. So children now are parented by not just their biological parents, but by the community. They're parented on social, yes, by social media. Children are parented. Children now, so parents are conflicting. You are competing with the phones. You're competing with social media. So see, a parent now has to be extra vigilant and present. So the rich most times in fact, they are not present. So these children are being parented by other things and other people in the community.
Housemaids,
nannies, phones and likes. So people say children of nowadays. And I'm like, no. God didn't wait for this time to bring all the bad children in the world. No. What happened is that parents of nowadays are raising children of nowadays. What they know.
Let me ask you this, because when we had this conversation on Children's Day yesterday, you probably saw us talking to children, 2 children actually, one of them an adolescent, and one of the questions that we asked was, and maybe I should bring this to you, do parents listen to children
these days?
Whether it's rich, not so rich, and all of that. Do parents listen to children? How should parents listen to children? How important, or maybe let me make it a little lighter, how necessary is it for parents to not just hear the voices of their children asking for biscuits and all, but to actually listen to the children? How important, how essential is it?
Yes, thank you so much. It is very, very essential. In fact, the essentiality of this cannot be overemphasized. Coming from where you stopped with me the other time, that rich parents as their children that are doing drugs and all of that. That's where it starts.
No, I didn't say that.
No, I said, mostly.
Poor people don't do drugs. Period. I have a lawyer.
Don't refrain. I'm also a lawyer. All right. So now, flowing from that, you understand, a child might, it might be the early stage of being introduced to drugs. And the child is trying to pass a message to the parents. Yes. And that parent is not listening. Before you know what is happening, that child goes very deep into the act of using drugs. And at a particular time, it becomes difficult to bring the child out of it. I was also going to address that aspect of child abuse, which is neglect. Most times, the child is trying to talk to the parent. The parent is either not listening, the parent is either not there, and they feel that the school will do all the job.
Yes.
They feel that the teacher should listen. Didn't you talk to your teacher in school? What do you want to talk to me about now? No time for the child. in the name of looking for money, the times are hard, everywhere things are difficult, we need to have more money, we need to even be sure of your tomorrow, because they have money for today, they want to gather for tomorrow and gather for next year and gather for the next generation, not having in mind that your child is the only living legacy you're going to have. You can have houses, you can have cars, you can have everything you want, but once you pass away, your child is your only living legacy. And that is why parents should begin to learn to listen to their children, pay attention to details. There are non-verbal communications that the children are given, they are giving to us. You know, when I was having my court attachment, the judge on one particular case was very angry with the mother when she was in the witness box, because she said it was a matter of child abuse. And the mother said that the child had been abused 10 times before she realized that this child is being abused. And the judge became so emotional. You know, it was no longer official. At a point, it was even saying, Madam, God will punish you, because it just feels like if you have a little girl of 5 years old being abused, if that child had been sexually abused, a mother that pays attention when the child is walking from a distance to you, if it is happening for the first time, you will understand that there is some kind of pain in this girl as she's walking.
Or some discomfort.
Some discomfort. You will understand. But that's to show you how nonchalant that mother was. And to think that it is a staff of hers that has been abusing her own child under her nose, and for the 10th time before she could understand what was going on. We must understand that relationship with your child is key. If there's no relationship with the child might be talking and you will not hear. And the child might want to talk and decide not to even talk, because at the end of the day, what will she get or what will he get in return? Some children complain to their parents, this is happening. They scold them, they say it is your fault. You're the one who put yourself there. And then most children are not even able to say no to child abuse outside because of lack of self-esteem.
Yeah, confidence.
They don't have confidence in themselves. Their parents have already talked them down. Their parents wake them up every morning telling them how stupid they are, how good for nothing they are, and all of that. So really, my heart is for parents to know that your child is the best gift you can get in this world, and to instill in them self-esteem.
And our heart is for the children today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Madam,
yes.
So we've spoken about the children speaking, or rather, parents listening to the children.
Their children.
How do children speak?
Soros, okay.
And I'm not talking about those ones. Those ones they have come out teeth finished.
Even the young ones should learn to Soros, okay.
Exactly. Okay, well, that's what I said. We're on the same page. Management is proud of you. How do children speak in a way that they would be recognized? Thank you. Recognize that they are speaking, recognize what they are saying, and recognize how to be heard. How?
Yeah. Okay, so I would start by saying that children are always speaking, actually. Children are always speaking. And, you know, children, somebody said that children don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right? So people ask me, oh, why do children talk to you? Why do children talk to you? The answer is very simple. Children are persons. Sometimes we call them minor, which is not even right, because really they are human beings. They are persons complete, made by God. So they are persons because they have sense of worth. They can think, and they have power of choice, really. So children see that this person or these people, they want to hear me. There's an enabling environment for them to speak. So how do children speak? Basically, they speak from when they are young, for start by crying. Children speak, and you know they protest. You put them down, they protest. They want that warmth. They call for attention. As far as when they are little, as they grow up, they come and say, "Oh, mommy, why is this happening? Why is it that flowers grow? Why is it that they bring me like 10 questions in a day? I'm tired." come on, go and sit down.
Especially when they don't have the answers.
Yes, when they don't have the answers. Yes. Or they ask you about, mommy, how are babies made? The questions. They're stuck. They don't want to say. So when the child asks the first questions, ask why, and there's no answer. The child, you begin to kill that curiosity in a child. How was the aeroplane made? Children saw that birds were flying, and they said, oh, if birds can fly, how come human beings can't fly? We'll see that human beings can fly as well. Those were the right brothers. And they sat down and made the aeroplane stereotype, the prototype that we're used today. Curiosity in the minds of children is always working. So when we shut down curiosity, then they don't speak anymore. And if I was talking to children, I always tell them, see, a child, speak until something happens. Because truly, children they're stifled. They're stifled. A child talks to you, say, oh, don't talk back at me. I'm an adult. Don't look me in the eye. Culture. Right? Children are stifled. So I tell them, see, don't speak until something happens. So a child is being abused, and apart from that, parents are not available. They tell mommy, somebody touched me, in a particular way, and we say that, oh, that's your uncle, my baby J. Was supposed somebody touched you? What do you mean? That we will keep that. The child is like, okay, nobody believes me. Well, I tell children, see, keep speaking. Your mommy doesn't believe you, talk to your pastor. They don't hear you, talk to your teacher in school. They don't hear you, talk to somebody that you can trust. Until something happens, keep speaking.
But unfortunately, sometimes they are always speaking.
Yes.
And they don't get desired response. Yeah. And then they have to talk to someone else.
Yes. And then then sometimes they now get the wrong friends. The wrong responses. So what I would say is that, see, until we actually look at children as a property of government, see, parents do not own children. You have to realize that. So the people that can do this work is the government, in the sense that in developed climes, a parent is not doing a child well. What do? They take the child and give them better care.
Don't forget that we have so much debt in Nigeria now that we don't even know. I will come back there. Alera, I'm seeing a series. I just finished watching a series, a short, limited series. About 6 episodes, titled Clark, and it's from this guy that the Stockholm syndrome came. But there's something instrumental about this guy. He grew up to be completely asentimental, unemotive. What happened? He had an extremely bad hand dealt him by his dad. From when he was something in the region of 5 to get a smile from the dad. A smile, not a commendation, just a smile from the dad. He looked forward to it. He hardly ever got it. And if he got a smile from the dad, almost as soon he'll get a spank on the behind of his head. Now, we're talking about a better future for the Nigerian child. I don't even want to go to the politics and all of those things that are happening today. But the clear and present danger we are creating for these children by not giving them the simplest thing, which is the warmth.
Yes. Attention.
How important is this? Do you think parents even understand that it is as important as that? Because there are those who think that giving them warmth, welcoming them, helps build their self-esteem. Do you think parents and guardians, even teachers, have the understanding of how important that warmth is for children?
Yes, I would say that some of the parents, teachers, caregivers, some of them have that importance, but they do not have enough. They don't know how important enough that is. And some feel that they're giving attention to their children because they buy them gifts. Some interpret attention and wants in the name of gifts. I pay your school fees. What else do you want? So they don't understand the place of being there, or the way I will put it, the place of being intentional with your child. You have a goal to achieve with your child. And like you said, I'm not interested in going to the politics of government and all of that, because at the end of the day, it is your child. If you like, blame the government. If you like, blame society. If you like, blame community. If you like, blame the school that you pay millions for. At the end of the day, it is your child. It is you as a parent that should sit down and say, this is what I want out of my child, and you sacrifice the time.
Let me draw, bring this home even closer. Alera, you will be able to relate with this because you're a grandma. But there was a day, I think my 22-year-old was 15 at the time. We were having a conversation. I just said, Daddy, if you know what I'm going through. I said,
Wow.
what are you going through?
You have house rent to pay, you have school fees to pay, you have a car to fix.
But you know, it sounded funny to me. It sounded ridiculous to me at the time. Until I spoke to a psychologist who said, indeed, she was going through a lot. I spoke with we had an interview with a psychologist who said, and we'll probably close on this, who said, when asked the question of at what age do children have, is it depression? Said, I think they had, was it 11 or 12 that he says, what's the child thinking?
Their problems it may not be important to you, but it's important,
to them. Yeah.
It's important to them.
Are parents aware of that? It's the question that I want to ask. And how do parents know when their children are having these kinds of psychological pressures that they need to give attention to?
So I'll say that the way a child tells you that he can come to you and tell you he's hungry, and he feels that someone will listen, that's the same thing that applies for telling you about these deep issues. And before we go there, you know, I was talking to a child who told me, oh, I'm doing badly in school. What's the problem? His child says, people gossip about me in school. They gang up together and just talk about me. And because of that, I can't concentrate. That child was 10 years old. That child was going through that psychological issue in school. I could not talk to his parents. I said, why did you talk to your parents? If I tell mommy, she won't believe me. So from the age of 3, a child already begins to feel self-conscious and all those things. In fact, a child is a person. So every emotion that an adult feels, sadness, joy, happiness, anger, every emotion that an adult feels, a child also feels. So how can parents identify these things? The answer is simple. And what I've been saying since is, have a relationship. A child will tell you, I'm going through this in school. And how do you respond? Oh, okay, that's fine. Come tell me more. You don't judge. You don't interrogate them. Ask questions. You don't judge. You don't say, oh, that's how you do. That's who you are. Do you understand? So you ask those questions, and even before they tell you, a child goes to come back and say, oh, how was school? They say, fine. Because the question you have asked, the answer is fine, generally. But when you ask more questions and say, how was school today? Did anyone bully you? What act of kindness did you try to do today? What did you do? Who spoke to you? Who touched you? What happened? You ask specific questions to get specific answers. Are you going through any issues?
Since you are talking about this, I think we need a long list of questions that parents should ask.
Yes.
Long list of questions.
Well, she has told us that children are human beings.
Yes.
And they feel everything that we feel as adults.
They're persons.
Yes.
So we definitely need to pay attention. So we're talking about giving a better future for the Nigerian child. So would you therefore say that giving that child a better future begins with the parents?
Yes, it begins with the parents, because a lot of children learn everything, or basically most of the things they know, from home. And the parents are better teachers. One thing we did not really touch here today is the sexual abuse that children are going through. Most times it starts even from the home, not from the school, not from outside. People have cousins come to spend holidays with them. And before you know what is happening, if you are a parent that is not paying attention, the cousin of the child can be the one that start abusing the child sexually in your house. So a lot is happening within the family system, and most parents are not paying attention to it. So for me, I would say that we begin to have a better future for the Nigerian child when the parents are conscious of the fact that no matter what happens, no matter whom I have to blame, on the long run, this is my child. And then we now look at good education for the children and all of that. But I would say it begins from the home.
And that is where we have to anchor this for today. Joy Etukudo, PRO, Lagos Child Protection Council, Ali Mosho, and we also had Olabisi Afolabi, legal practitioner and advocate, SAFE, Safe for Children Society.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very so much.
And once again, Happy Children's Day.
To me.
Whatever that means. Well, you're somebody's child, so that's fine. Okay, Sunrise will be right back with the home stretch in just a moment. Stay with us.
For me, it's our soundtrack.
The river streets. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But that was Bashiro.
Yes, that was Bashiro. But it is Ashiri comedy. Okay, so he is popularly known as Ashiri, a comedian, content creator, popular for hilarious and creative comedy skits on social media. And he's also an author and a brand influencer. Thanks for joining us this morning.
I'm so excited, like seeing you. I used to see you real life, but seeing her, I'll collect autograph today before I leave. Like, I'm not excited seeing you.
This is 2022.
I've seen you finish.
Not just see, you have seen him finish. That has another meaning altogether.
See my life outside.
Finish.
See my life outside.
Don't finish.
Before you reverse it.
No.
Damilare.
Yes, Mom.
I saw a few of your skits this morning, especially the ones with you and Aroli.
Okay.
Oh God.
Good.
they are glory peddlers. Ogo peddlers.
Yeah.
Ogo peddlers.
Glory. Odip.
Okay.
Odip.
Odi.
Odip. Deep.
Odip.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Olofa.
Yeah.
How did you get into comedy?
Well, for me, it was a coincidence. I didn't plan it.
The same way that you're wearing white was a coincidence?
Yes, my life pretty much
it's a coincidence.
So it was just me being myself, and I just realized that when I was in school, starting from pre-degree 2007, people just gather around me, and I'm just myself. So over time...
You're just making them laugh.
Yes, and I don't think it's something... It's second nature. So it was people that were making a fuss out of it. So over the years, and I decided, okay, I think we could... And I stumbled on a CD of Night of 1,000 Laughs. I was like, oh, so some people actually do this.
And make money out of it. What kind of nonsense is that?
So it was out of trial and error. It's not... It was the list of the things I could have considered. Yeah.
So what were the other things?
A lot too.
Okay.
As at then, I was studying microbiology in OAU. As at then, I already considered I would be a teacher.
Teacher?
Yes, now.
T.O.
Because then I have gifts. I used to know things. I will just know it. See, I can teach you what I don't know. So when I was age 12, I taught someone how to drive. I went to the field, I was teaching her, so she now entered one tight corner. I already thought I'd do like this. She said, Oga, come and drive. I said, I know Sabio.
No, this is a true story.
I took her to a field. I said, I know Sabio.
You don't know how to, you didn't know how, but you were teaching someone how to drive.
To try.
How?
I just have that audacity. It's just that's just me. Usually, most of the things I'm very good at, I always know how to do them while at it. I'm not that kind of person that formally learn things. Usually, I used to catch it. Then I get very good at it.
Well, it will seem like between you and Narole, you can't tell your stories. You can't tell the full story of Arole without Ashiri. You can't tell the full story of Ashiri without Arole.
Sure.
How did you guys meet?
We met on campus. That was far back, 2009. So it was basically our rooms. He was in I3, I was in I2, Angola Hall in OAU. So it was just a case of what I wanted to do on campus was what he wanted to do on campus. Okay. The program I wanted to use as a leverage was the program he wanted to do as a leverage. We had never met before, and we had that plan. So there was this program on campus, always organized by ECU. It was one game show like that. So I planned that I would enlist for that program. When they ask me questions, at least they will give me a microphone. I'll use the opportunity to make the... He came with that
same thought.
So, fortunately, unfortunately, he was contestant number 3, I was 5. So they called him before me. So I was this guy did he read my mind? So that was how at the end of that contest, I think I came second, he came third in that. They present us one jota like that. I got back to campus. I got back to our hall of residence. I was already angry that who is this guy said that. Then the next day, I wanted to go out maybe for lecture. Then I just saw one guy in front of the, Angola, or the way it is, there's a passageway where we used to. But I just saw one guy. This same short guy again. Someone writes to me. That was how we became friends, and from then we connected.
So how did you both decide that you want to focus on go 1 terabyte? Can you imagine saying that somebody's glory is just 1 megabyte?
Glory is a unit of byte, giga, tera, unlimited. Like you now, your glory is unlimited terabytes.
Amen.
Don't need to say amen. I saw it. It's for you.
Oh, you have.
I saw it.
Yes, you saw it.
Since there are some glory, there are WhatsApp glory. 4 KB, 2 KB, 3 KB. Your own glory, you know. I already sent it to you as a text message. I don't want to make it public.
By the way, did you finish your degree?
I did. BSc microbiology. I have masters in business administration.
Masters?
Yes, now. I'm not dull.
No. It's not a matter of being dull. You actually were able to sit down and go through a master's program.
Yes, now. When I was younger, as a JSS1 boy, my mom was doing a second degree at DESU, Delta State University, Abuja. As a JSS1 boy, I used to do her assignment for her. As at then, in year 2000, I had read books like Oliver Twist by John Dickens, Oracles of King Oedipus, Animal Farm, George Orwell. So I was exposed to most of those things at a very young age. And then I had no other job. Once you enter the house, you can't go out. So I didn't have the luxury of playing around like other kids. So it's books. So when I read all my own books finished and there was no book in the house again, I pick up my dad's book on automobile engineering. Then I picked my mom. So I was just reading all that. So when I reached one age, my head was already, I know so many things. It was not confusing me.
And yet you chose to be a comedian.
Yes, among every other things.
Oh, okay. So there are other things that you do.
Yeah, it was more for me like the leverage. It was the first thing that it. You know, this life you can.
Oh, you blow.
Yeah, it blow. It blow. It blow. Is a voiceless labiodenta.
Excuse me.
The difference between blowing and blowing.
I don't know Buko.
I'm teaching you now.
A blow.
Say it after me. Say blow.
Blow.
Exactly. That's it. That's how to speak like erudite.
Blow.
Erudite.
Erudite. God. We do have a comedian in the house. We do have a comedian.
I think the components of the glory that you saw for her.
Our glory is a full package, well engineered. Glory. They can. Those guys that the more they use it, the fuller it is. So some people, if you work with them, their glory is like Netflix.
How is Netflix glory?
If you load 200 MB now, you now watch one full movie.
You don't finish.
You don't finish. So those people like that, when you see them, you will off your hotspot.
Not finish your hotspot.
You off your hotspot now. So those people who want the drag, you go no now.
I also see that you do both between the two of you and you as well. When you're solo, you seem to do more, comedy from Bible. Same way I've seen a number of occasions when Okebakasi would do the same thing. I was asked with that one you talked about Moses. What did Moses do to you?
That was one of my early jokes. That joke got me places.
Tell us again because
tell us the joke, please.
Will this still be funny? Jokes have timing and range. You have to get into character. But
is the Bible still relevant?
The Bible is still relevant.
Exactly. So that one should.
So basically, for me, I just wonder why, because when I read Bible, my mind expands. That God told Ezekiel, to speak to dry bone. It was audible instruction. So, and I was not like, God could have saved time if truly the Israelites had an emergency situation. God could have saved time and just said, Moses, say to the Red Sea now, Red Sea, part. But God didn't say it. So I knew.
But that's what God told him initially, that he should speak to the Red Sea.
But it didn't happen. Go and read that Bible verse. It didn't happen.
Yeah, I know it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Because he knew something. God knows our weaknesses. He knows. He knows that Moses cannot say Red Sea part. He has speech impediment. It's not possible. Before he would say...
Oh, he was a stammerer.
Chronic one. Serious one. No. So before he said, Papa, and you know, instructions, you have to say it. It's a command. Papa, pa. The Egyptian will meet them and power all of them. God said, no, let's save time. Just stretch forth your hand, stretch forth your rod. Don't go. I could hear God literally screaming, Moses, if you thought they will kill you now, just stretch forth your hand, stretch forth your rod. Don't bother. I know your weakness.
Nibo.
Oh, what? You people are taking me back, man.
Nibo.
Those are my early jokes. So.
Hi. You have to first of all give us that fast.
You are making me
calorie.
Hey. No, that is entering me.
You are seeing the glory.
You are reminding me of the old me.
Is
Kaluzi. That's the old me. You are reminding me.
Who is Kaluzi again?
Kaluzi is a word that I don't know the meaning of 5 seconds ago. It's just Kaluzi. It comes like that. Lezu.
Like you tell her Nibo. She wants to hear Nibo from your mouth.
Nibo.
Nibo was a true story. My mom, no, you can't imagine. Can you send your child to school and then you imagine that your child wants to be a comedian? So usually my mom, she's a typical Yoruba. She's late now. So she's a typical Yoruba woman. When she's angry, she exclaims, "Who dropped this cup here? Nibo!" So the first time someone told her that I was doing comedy, she shouted, "Nibo! For where?" Nibo means for where? You will not do comedy, Nibo! God so good, we now had a conference like 2 weeks after. My mom was there. You know these churches that they want to show that they are big. They now gave me an honorarium in front of the old church. That envelope was fat. My mom was at that program. When we were going home, my mom just looked at me. My mom that used to be shouting, "Neighbor, you will not do." She now tapped me. "You are a good boy. Comedy runs in the lineage." Myself, I just shouted, "Neighbor!" My mama said, "Nibi Barry, I'm your mother."
Okay, so maybe that's the old Ashiri. So what's new for Ashiri? Well, we've seen Bashiro, by the way. So
yes, it's day by day, you know, we're growing.
There are 3 of you, aren't there?
Yes.
There's Ashiri,
yes.
There's Bashiro,
There's Ashiri, the comedian. There's Damlari, the author and media entrepreneur. There's Bashiro, the mechanic. And more to come. And more to come.
Okay. So what's new?
Yeah, basically it's a game of evolution. A whole lot we're doing. By God's grace, I've written like 4 books. 5 self. There's one other ebook. So, and then comedy, we run a comedy club now that we've been running it for like 3 years. And has provided platform for most of our comedians. Some of them started, their first shot at the stage was at that comedy club, and they're all doing fine now. So for me,
where does that hold?
We do it every other Saturday.
Where?
So that was at Okwebi Barrel Lounge, Okwebi, every Saturday.
Do we have to pay to come in?
You don't have to pay. It's free. That's part of the glory. You just come, you sit down, we make you laugh. That's part of the glory. We don't charge you. We make you laugh, then you go, you are okay. But if you have event and you don't call us, something will happen. It's free, but you will come to my comedy club laughing. Oh, boys, do you know how we cater for 13 comedians? We have 13 comedians on our bill. You will now have events in your family. You now say you know one MC somewhere. We will stop the place.
And at this juncture, we'll come to the
You will stop that show.
I will pray for you before I go. Everywhere I go, I pray.
Another time you pray. No,
I should pause it.
Yes, pause it.
Lazy, I don't pray.
Now, Damilare Olusegun, popularly known as Ashiri Comedy, is a comedian, content creator, and author and brand influencer. Thank you so much for being a part of our program.
And Ashiri closes Sunrise for this day, the last Saturday in May. We'll bring you a fresh edition in June. We hope to see you then. My name is Alero Edu.
And I'm
Stay well.
Makinde. Bye for now.